Can you find all that you search for? In this better place you was meant to go.
All right. Thank you. Actually, you know what?
Let's grab a seat, everybody. Go. Why are you laughing at me? All right, folks, let's get rolling.
So, my friend Andy. This is really, it's really fun to bring Andy up because, you know, he gives me this bio. Right? This is awesome. So he goes, here's my bio that you can read. I know his bio, but every time I look at it, like my heart stops. I'm like, oh, this guy is so good at selling Cutco. And let me read this. Watch this. So he went to Florida International University, Management Information Systems major. Okay, magna cum laude. So he's smarty pants, which I knew already. Started in September of 2001 with Vector Marketing here in Miami. After only being here, I don't know, a couple of, how long were you in 2 years in Miami from Haiti? I'm just going to go through some, watch it. A Hall of Fame in our company, August 2007. He's a Rolex winner, meaning he's sold over $200,000 worth of Cutco in 1 year, which means, and for managers, we have a different quota. You'll see Kathy has the watch, he has the watch, I have the watch. It's just a great, great thing. His best push week ever, $55,000 in sales in a 2-week push. Yeah, that's it. It's like heart attack. Best week ever, $28,000 for the week. Over 1,400 grand days. That's awesome. Not a 1,400. I thought like over $1,400 grand day. I'm like, 1,400 bucks. Who cares? No, he's had 1,400 grand days. That's stupid. Oh, okay. Okay, this is a stat you'll want to hear for his message. He's over between $700 and $900 on his average order when someone already owns the product. So that's why he's so appropriate for this message. 71% of his 2013 and his 2013 year with final. So exactly $301,000 in sales. 71% of it, so $210,000 came from previous customers. So this is the guy you want to hear from. He's the first non-realtor rep in the Eastern region to sell $300,000. For you aspiring full-time sellers, the Realtor Rep program is one where you essentially are providing business gifts to realtors for home closings. It's a whole other department you can get into. It's just an exciting department. But without that, this is the only rep to ever do over $300,000 in sales for the year. And currently, like I said earlier, the #1 rep in the history of the Eastern region. I believe you broke top 10 whole company, right, ever? Up there?
Number 16.
All right, you'll get there. He's also on a personal, the vice president of Angel Wings International, and it's just it's a charity that provides support to the country of Haiti, and it's something that's very near and dear to the Florida Caribbean division. It's also part of the prospectus now, which is really exciting, by the way. I've watched Andy take his business, but also take that business of providing help to the people of Haiti ever since the earthquake, and we now have a health clinic that we've been able to contribute, and you'll continue to hear. In fact, at SC1, you'll hear how you can help us contribute to that cause. Also, I love this. He says, this is my 2-sentence description. Service calls are more than just an opportunity to sell on the first contact. It's changing the way people see Cutco in their kitchen and in their future. So we have a basic outline. Actually, Mark, if you wouldn't mind handing it out. For those of you in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, I'm about to email it right now to your managers. You can just simply take notes as we go through. But this handout's going to go out right now. Actually, Mario, can you help with the back row too? JJ, thank you. So on a personal note, you talk about what the difference a year makes. Let me tell you the difference 10 years makes. Because 10 years ago, when I was a new division manager, I met this guy named Andy Janti, who his respective district manager said, I'm going to come home to Baltimore, where I'm from. He ran a district office in Miami. I'm going to come home, and I'm bringing one of my branch managers with me. His name is Andy Janti. And Andy was one of my first branch managers. He was my first #1 branch manager in DC Metro, and I was a new 23-year-old division manager running around not knowing what I was doing. We became dear friends, and we have so many stories. We've traveled together. Near and dear to my heart, a close personal friend who continues to support our FC cause. He is the M3PG experience, if you will, and I hope you're going to help me and welcome and bring a lot of energy and fire to this young man who's just turned 21, by the way. He's looking so good for 21. Let's give it up to Mr. Andy Janti, please.
21 with about 12 years of experience. All right. Okay. Apparently we have some Puerto Ricans over here. Hello. All right. How you guys doing today? Oh, that's like a crappy energy. If you walk to a service call like that, they're not going to buy anything. How you guys doing today? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So this is something that's I'm very passionate about, so I'm really happy to come to this office, which is my home office. And about a week and a half ago, I guess, I was at the National Rep Development Conference, where all the top representatives go for a meeting for 4 days, and I spoke about this. In fact, I have like a live table, and Jordan was there, and Mario was there, and but what's really cool about this is that I'm going to try to go over some of the handout with you. So when you go home, you have something to look into and just follow along again and make sure you can review it. Is that cool? Okay. So let's talk about service calls. Some of you here, have you ever called somebody? I know there's like a different kind of crowd here. We have some people who've been around for a few years, and you have some people that may have started this summer or sometime this year. Who here started this summer, just so I know? Okay. All right, cool. So we have about maybe half or some of you over here. So I'm going to take the perspective of teaching you how to really look at service calls differently. And when I first started in the business, I didn't do my first service call like a real service call. I was probably well over $150,000 in career sales. However, I did meet people that had Cutco already. Does that happen to all of you guys? Anybody? Everybody, right? So that becomes a service call, right? And so for most of you, it's going to happen until you get to a point where you're servicing your customers or you're getting referred, and that's like a big core of your business. At this point in my business, it's a huge portion of my business is service calls. So I'm excited to share a lot of that experience with you guys for the last 10 years, 12 years that I've been in the business on how to look at service calls. So if you look at my handout, the first thing I want you to notice, if you go actually over here, okay, this is my mentality when I look at a customer. When I look at a customer that have Cutco, my objective is to, and Jeff said it in the beginning, I want to change their perspective about owning Cutco. Like, I don't want them to just think about, oh, you know, I just bought these knives, they're here, they're great, but, you know, I don't really know, I don't know how to use some of them, I don't know what to do to maintain them, I forgot they even had a guarantee. You guys ever had that experience on an appointment? So this is your opportunity to really change your perspective on the appointment and at the same time educate them on what they have. You know, I pride myself where sometimes I'll get the customers excited about what they already have. And just because then they realize the potential of adding. They're like, wow, this is actually really good. Man, I wish I would have picked up that spatula spreader. I mean, it drives me nuts when somebody said, oh, I've never used it. It's right there. Oh my God. Are you kidding me? I got 2 of them at home. What are you talking about, right? So, taking the perspective of teaching your customers is what's really going to help you to make that sale that you so want and getting those leads that you want, right? So on a bigger scale, though, and I might planting that seed for you guys to think a little bit bigger, I look at customers at not just today they could buy $500, $1,000. I think about how much they could buy this summer. Maybe they could buy once, twice, 3 times. Maybe they could buy more again by the end of the year. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is if you prepare the customer with that mindset of adding to their collection. So it's no longer about just buying now. It's how much you're going to be buying today and how soon can you have the Cutco kitchen. Does that make sense? So obviously I want them to buy everything today. That's great. But, right? But if that doesn't happen, I want them to be in that position, right, to be able to buy more. So hopefully a lot of things I'm going to focus on is going to help you guys with that. First thing, let's talk about the phone. I think this is really important. When you call a customer and whether they were referred to you, you find out that they have Cutco, right? So I think that's probably the biggest scenario. Would you guys say that's like the biggest scenario that you come across at this point of your career? Yes? Yes? Or if you have a past customer and you're going to see them? Hold on to your questions for later, by the way. That'll be good. We got 15 minutes on the calendar for that. So when you call a customer and they tell you, well, I already have it.
You're good.
Okay, perfect. When you call a customer and they tell you, I already have Cutco, right? So my objective is to say, well, that's perfect. Because you probably don't remember that we had a forever guarantee. And so I kind of go over that, that fear that most people have sometimes. Well, they already have Cutco. Do I really need to go there? Yeah, you want to go there. You'll be surprised. There are actually representatives now, like, they look for all the Cutco owners as much as possible, right? So think about it. Like, it's people have the product. They've used the product. They might not be as educated, but they do have the product. So now you got one thing that's already gone. They're educated about the product. So now it's your turn to make them feel better about it. However, something that I've noticed, sometimes people might have received it as a gift. Sometimes they might have just purchased one, right? I love when customers tell me, well, I only have one. Do you really need to come out? I'm like, absolutely, because you actually need it more than anybody else, because you only have one. Does that make sense? The objective is, how can you help your customers understand that they do need to sharpen their knives? That's the bottom line. It's a great thing. The product lasts for a long time, but to enhance their experience in the kitchen, they need to keep them sharp. You guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so, but I do want to have the decision maker. One of the things that, and I want to teach you guys this early, as you're part of my division, I think that's one of the things we pride ourselves in is like having a high average order and really doing well. So when I call a customer and I try to get that appointment, and you guys can see this, here's what I say after I scheduled your appointment. So you guys obviously will use different approaches. Some of you are in school, some of you are not. But the bottom line is this sentence right here can be used by everybody, okay? And what that does, it makes things easier for you. It makes it that you're going to sit down with the people that are going to be the decision makers. Does that make sense? So here's the line right here. It's very simple. Marilyn, I can't wait to meet you. By the way, I will have my book with me, and we do have some specials going on. So you can take advantage of it if you see something you like, okay? So you guys already have this, so you don't have to write it down. But what I add to this is usually, so would you want your husband to be there? Okay? Simple question. Now I'm going to tell you guys, sometimes you come from that place of fear that if you say that, they won't schedule the appointment. You guys ever felt that way?
Yep.
I have never lost an appointment because I did this, ever. But what I've gained is getting to the decision maker. They either say, oh, that would be good if my husband's there. Okay, cool. Or, no, it really doesn't matter. So now that gives you permission when you get there that you're going to show them something, and it puts them in a different kind of mindset. Does that make sense? Okay? So don't be afraid to do that. When they say, yeah, it would be better if my husband's there. Okay, well, can we look at the schedule again? Would this time be better, or do you think a little bit later would be better at this time? Always ask them with specific times. Don't wait for, you know, when's the best time. No, it's like, I have this time or that time, okay? So that's like a quick little tip for you guys. So my service call overall consists of 3 different parts. So if you guys can remember that. First, service. Service, 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 service. Number 2 is planting those seeds that are going to open the door for you to sell them more, okay? And then, of course, after that, it's closing and how you close on it. So I'm going to try to spend about equal time on this today so we can get to that point and hopefully get to some Q&A. So very important, guys. I have literally mastered this and reviewed it 1,000 different times to see what would be the best way to approach service calls. And what I've found is, as much as you might want to be flexible with your customers, there are certain ways that when you open up to a service call, that it sets the tone the right way. Does that make sense? So what I mean by that is, if a customer, when you walk in the house, you can feel that they're not necessarily completely open to buying something at this moment, that doesn't mean that you have to change what you're doing. You want to follow the same procedure because that's going to show confidence, and customers respect that more than you can imagine. When they see that you have something to offer, you're sure about it, you're going to show them the value of it, they pay attention. When you just fold because of what they say, they're like, oh, whatever. It's just one of those college students. Like, literally. So you don't want to be that person. You want to be that person that they're like, man, this gets sharp. That's awesome. Okay? So that has to be your objective. So here's my opening comment. My opening comment when I first walk into the house is, I want to show them that I'm here to take care of them, right? So I say, hey, Shaina? Okay. Shaina. Which that? Right? Shaina. I like the Shaina. That sounds cool. Shaina, great to meet you. I usually try to comment on something that I can relate to in the house, and then I say, show me your knives. Okay? So let's go to the kitchen. So ask for the knives right away if you know they're already a service call, right? If you didn't know, and by the time you set up the appointment, you get to the house, and then you find out, that's fine too. Oh, you have Cutco already? Awesome. Right? Give me those knives. I'm going to sharpen them for you. Like, that just kind of changes the mood completely when you're in that situation. Now, quick note. Does everybody here have a sharpener? The Ed Reed sharpener. Okay. If you don't have one, guess what you do? Send it back. Right? Do you guys know all the address to send this back? To send the Cutco back for a customer?
I mean, Houghton Avenue.
Huh?
Forever Guarantee page.
It's on the Forever Guarantee page. Thank you. So it's in the back of the Forever Guarantee page. It's on the guarantee page, 322 Houghton Avenue, Olean, New York, 14760. I know it by heart. Okay? And you want to help your customers. You know, you tell them to insure the package and to send it back. So, and that's simple. By the way, I did that for probably the first 6 months I did service calls. I didn't know how to sharpen the knife, so what's the point of damaging their knives or trying something when I could just help them send it back to the factory? Okay? You guys good? So, easy. And get them excited about it. Tell them, Mrs. Jones, one of the coolest things is when you get them back, they'll either replace them, re-edge them, or that's about it. That's about what they do. One thing that I would recommend, if you ever do this for a customer, this is like a little nugget for you guys. I actually started this probably way too long into my career, is to have like the service request forms, not service request forms, the package slip that a customer gets when they get their knives replaced. This is like money. Like when you show that, by the way, this will help you on a service call, it'll help you on a demo, just to show them like what happens when they send it back. Like this one says replace completely, this one says sharpen, replace, 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 $7.
Now, do you take that from your old customers or like just like
Old customers. Yep. So that belongs to one of my customers. So I wanted to show you.
Comment? This is one of the great messages where they're gonna get a ton of questions. Like that was an awesome question.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have Q&A at the end, but don't forget to write the question. Because anytime there's gonna be a point like you're not gonna start with questions like that after this. So write all the questions down. At the end we can clarify. You're gonna have a lot. So that's what he's here for. He's gonna have his message and that's Q&A.
It gets fun when we get to the question. So don't worry, guys. We'll get there. I promise. Okay. So 3 scenarios. I broke it down very easily for anybody to start doing the right way right away. So my 3 scenarios is, number 1, if they have an ultimate set. Number 2, if they have a few pieces, or if they have a block set, but that it's not an ultimate set. So a homemaker, a galley, whatever, right? So, but the start of my planting that seed is very similar. So I'm gonna go over one of them, and you guys gonna get it. So let's take the first one, which is they have a block set. Let's say, for example, they have a galley set, and obviously you want to upgrade them to an ultimate. Before I go on, does everybody here believe that everybody should own an ultimate set?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Don't BS me, because I'll know by the end of the summer. I'll tell you guys, my best customers have an ultimate set. Okay, so make sure that you are, if you have a question about that at the end, we'll go over that, okay? So let's say they have a galley set and you want to upgrade them to an ultimate. Always, always, always. So here's my line here. Oh, Shaina, you have a starter set. Oh. How did you get your Cutco? And then you kind of get into the conversation. She's going to tell you the story. But then I tell her, hey, just so you know, we have a special for customers just like you where they can upgrade into a more complete set. And the cool thing about it, and I kind of changed most of it, but you guys can follow exactly what it says. You can upgrade to a more complete set, but you don't have to buy the complete set. You kind of trade in your block and you get a discount. Basically, you get credit for everything you have towards the upgrade. It's really cool. I'll show it to you later. Let me sharpen the knives. That's it. What is that called? Yeah. It's planting that seed and pulling back. Now they almost kind of want to know, well, tell me about it. Oh, you got to wait. Okay, so that's scenario number 1. Scenario number 2, they have a few pieces. That's my favorite. My favorite's like, Mrs. Jones, where's your block? What?
I don't have a block.
Who did that to you? Hopefully it wasn't me. You know, that is like literally my favorite way when they don't have a block, because like they obviously realize that they need a block. They need a block. Everybody needs a block. I hope I don't have to sell you guys on that. It's extremely important to have a block. I would never have my knives in a drawer. And I tell them, I'm like, I can't believe you have them in a drawer. Now here's the thing, guys. This is very important. You got to practice this if you feel like you can't put that facial expression, because it's very important to send the message without offending them. Does that make sense? So that's why I'll say exactly what I want to say, but I have like that baby face where they kind of like, oh, I think I need a block. Okay? So I'm like, where's your block? Like, who did this to you? How did this happen? I do that, by the way. I think you guys think it's funny. It's like, that's what I do. And they're like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't get one. Okay. Now, occasionally you have those people like, well, I don't like blocks, right? Does that happen? Sure. So I handle that. I'm like, Mrs. Jones, I can understand that you don't really like blocks, but it's extremely important for your very expensive investment to store them in a case. Like, it damages the knives to have them. Like, when I walk in a house, I know if somebody has a block or not just by the way the handle is. You can see how scratched up it is. I mean, you're like damaging this very expensive investment. It's like you would buy that really nice car and then you'll just put it like down the road, like you don't even know what's going on over there. That's what happens in the drawer. You don't know what's going on in the drawer. Okay, you have knives on top of each other. Bottom line is, guys, you gotta have fun with it, but you have to tell them how important it is. I'm like, you can't do that to your knives. Even if you have to put it in the cabinets. Like, I'll tell them, like, I have customers that, like, they really want to put them away from the counter. We'll put them in the cabinet. They'll put them down there. Like, they'll put it on top of, like, another, you know, something, appliance. Like, whatever it is, you need a block. Anyway, I'll show you how this special works out later. Let me sharpen your knife, okay? Everything revolves around planting that seed in the beginning and then pulling back and going back to the sharpening. Does that make sense? You guys get that? Okay. So the last part is if they have an ultimate set. So if they have an ultimate set, it's very simple. The ultimate set, I tell them, like, Mrs. Jones, you have a great set. That's what I have at home. You're what they call a preferred customer. People love to feel special. They love it. They're like, you are what we call a preferred customer. You get the best specials. You're going to love it. We have lots of gifts for family members. We have a lot of other products. We have new products that you didn't even know about. We have cookware, flatware, all kinds of cool stuff. But you get the best discount on it. Anyway, show me the knives. Let me sharpen the knives. Okay? You guys get that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Just so you know, guys, this is what makes the magic. Everything else is going to help, but planting that seed in the beginning is what makes the customer think throughout the whole appointment, yeah, that could be kind of cool to have a bigger block. Oh, that could be kind of cool. Like, they're thinking, you know? You're like making them think. Especially those that probably have, like, some customers have a block and then they have a couple random pieces in the drawer. You guys ever have that? Yeah. Like, we're going to get you a block. You can put everything together. Like, I'll repeat that probably like 100,000 times throughout the appointment, that you can put everything together now. So don't forget about that. Now, for the ultimate, for people that have ultimate set, you guys notice I wrote the Santoku line. So I'll teach you guys that because I'm hoping that you guys are the strong people, the strong founders of the FC 2014, summer 2014. Can I teach you guys something a little bit more advanced?
Yes.
All right. So this is one of my creations. So I'll take credit for it. It's called the Santoku line. And the Santoku line is basically selling the customer everything that is not in the ultimate set in a homemaker block. And it will fit. So the Santoku paring knife, the Santoku trimmer, Santoku carver, Santoku slicer. Now it's the petite chef because the French chef is now in the ultimate. But if they had an ultimate from the past, you know, whichever they have. If they have the petite chef, they get the French chef. Does that make sense? Okay. Petite Santoku, if they don't have it in their other set. Bottom line is, every other knife that we make, bird's beak paring knife, 2 extra forks, and I do a lot of upgrades with 8 table knives. I'm like, you can move your 8 table knives from that homemaker, and in the ultimate, you can get the 12 steak knives.
Keep that whole thing over again.
Yeah.
That was just. That was good.
Okay. Okay, so I'm like, Mrs. Jones, like, the cool thing you can do is that you get the Santoku line. It's like the most popular thing nowadays. And so I'm gonna get your 8 table knives from your homemaker, for example, put them in the homemaker, and fill up the block with the Santoku pieces. And then for your ultimate, you can get the 12 steak knives. Good?
Yeah.
So you got to play with that, right? Because sometimes they might have an old block and they can't put the steak knives in that block. Okay? I just give him a ridiculous deal on the new block. That's all. I got a ton of ultimate blocks at my house right now. When the steak knives came out, I was like, cha-ching! Because now I can sell him a brand new block that's beautiful with like 12 steak knives. So it's all about, and you're telling them that, you know, so you're planting that seed again. I'm like, you're going to love those Santoku pieces. By the way, guys, that's not for every customer, but I sold like 10 of them just during the summer, last summer, just so you guys know. And they're all like $1,200, so that's like an extra $12,000. Would you guys take an extra $10,000, $12,000? Oh, I thought so. so that's all it is. You know, it's knowing how to add more stuff to their collection, having options for your customers. So, all right, let's go back to the service. So when it comes to the service, I obviously bring all my stuff, and we'll skip the sharpening for now because I think most of you guys don't have a sharpener. So you guys know what to do if they need to get their knives back, right? Okay, cool. The only thing you want to say is make sure that they insure the package and get a tracking number, okay? Because UPS is not very reliable. So, all right, so now we're going to go down. And if you guys want to ask me about that, some of you later on about some of the sharpening, if you're starting to actually use it, we can go over that. Okay, so now when it comes to explaining the knives. So here's what I do during my appointment. I'm going to take off the jacket. At the end of the day, I don't do appointments in the jacket, right? Okay, so here is, I figured a little bit of live interaction will be more fun for you guys. Yeah?
Yes.
And you just make sure that the video sees, it should say broadcast, it should say red, stop broadcasting.
Yeah, and whenever I get closer, there's like a light that goes on.
Right.
So yeah, we're good.
Unless they can see you.
Okay. So if you guys don't have any roll-ups, I would say find a way to encourage some of your managers to buy you some roll-ups. Maybe you can do some contests. Go to the office and make a lot of calls, and Mr. Gamboa will probably be okay with getting you some stuff if you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's how I got all mine.
Yep.
Thank
Contests.
you. Contests are good. You're going to hold this the whole time?
No.
Okay.
Not even close. No.
Oh, you're going to develop those muscles. Okay. All right. So one of the
Yes, Mike.
Oh, that just happened.
Yeah.
perfect. La Isla. Okay, so I'll try to show you guys what's really relevant for your service call. But I really, to put in perspective for you guys, I really treat my service calls almost like a demo. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So in other words, I want to show them the service. I want to show them what they need to get their knives up to par. But once that's done, I'm going to assume that they're dumb and they need to like really get educated about Cutco again. Does that make sense? Because I want to have the control over their education on Cutco. That's the most important thing. Now I do build some rapport. We'll skip some of that, but because I want to get you guys what's really important. But this is part of my rapport and showing some of the customers and the relationship that I built over the years. This talks about enjoyings. This talks about the number that I'm in the company that Jeff was talking about. This I always, this will tie in your service call no matter what you do. This was for the RDC push. You guys have something similar for what? SC1. So make sure you use this. This is really, really big. Sharing your goals and having the visual sheets to share with your customers is extremely important. Couple of tips on getting leads on a service call. I'm sure you guys all want to know about that. I hope you guys have I hope you guys have those sheets. Do you guys keep track of people that sponsor you?
Yeah.
So check this out. I stopped 8 years ago getting those numbers. But look at this. And I go over like this. Those are people that refer me to at least 10 people. It's pretty cool when you flip through all of those.
Yeah, that looks awesome.
And I tell them I stopped counting. I stopped keeping track of it in 2006. Because otherwise my whole book would be of that. So it just kind of stops. So my transition after once you sharpen the knives or you help them send them back, my transition is, Mr. Jones, I want to make sure you know what's really unique about Cutco. So if you guys want to write this down, because I don't think I have it on here, I really want you to know what's unique about Cutco. And so the first thing that I always show them, if they already have it, I'll show it to them with it. If they don't have it, then I will pull it out, and it's, what is it?
Double D.
Yes, double D. Okay? So this is like the best transition into a sale. Although a lot of times I might say also, if they're like kind of in a different mood, you can tell they're kind of open to looking at stuff. I'm like, well, since I'm already here, I'm going to show you all the amazing specials that we have, right? But a lot of times it could be about the double D. So depending on how the mood is, I just want you guys to be prepared. There's different scenarios. You can go straight for education, or you can go straight into like, you know, showing them building rapport and stuff like that. Does that make sense? Because I know you guys have these scenarios where you have a customer that has to go very quickly, so you got to get to the point, right? Or you kind of have those customers that are kind of, you know, they're there with you, and they're going to spend the time. You can spend more time during the first part. Okay, so we're going to take an example. Obviously, you guys know how to show the double D, so I'm not going to go over that. One thing that I would mention that is extremely important, in fact, I printed one of them in my handout for you guys, if you haven't noticed, is the last page, the testimonial page. Who has testimonials now in their book? Oh, not enough. Zach. So you guys like the other part? So check out this part. So I'm like, Mr. Jones, those are people that I've met that have Cutco. They've had them for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 7 years, 9 years, 10 years, 12 years, 13, 15, 20. I met these people on a plane. 20 years, and it's true. 27, 29, 36, 37, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 47, 58. And showing them all of those testimonials, guys, it just makes a huge difference. Now I'm like, Mr. Jones, maybe one day you'll be in my book. That's like really awesome, by the way, to create that connection and for them to have that desire. Like, I have customers that are pissed off that they're not in my book. It's just really funny. I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have enough space. So, but I'm like, you need to just buy it 5 more times, and then you'll be in my book. Like, don't worry, you'll get there. Okay, so guarantee you guys are good for that, so we'll skip over that. So let's go over what creates the magic, right? So you've already prepped them on those 3 things. You planted that seed. So now, the way my book is set up is really set up for success. Like, that's really, the bottom line is to create that very big vision for them and then kind of like dropping down, but paying attention to their reaction. So if I can see that they're like, they might come out with like a $3,000 or $4,000 sale. So I'm like, I just want you to have like first an overview of the collection. And some people buy all of it at once, especially they want to take advantage of the service call special. Some of them might just do an upgrade, or they might do some cookware, or they might do the flatware, and then later on add up to it. Okay? So I have this. You guys have this, everybody? Okay. So, but it's very important the way you say it, right? Everybody can see this? Pretty much? Yes? Who can't not see? Okay, good. So that's my first thing, because I want them to think big, okay? I'm like, so now if you wanted to just start with a basic upgrade, then it would be, you'll get this little upgrade right here. Now, obviously, if they have a homemaker, are you going to say that? No. You're going to say, so you got two options, right? You can either get the complete set, the one that I have at home. You guys probably look at sheets and you're like, that does not look like mine. It's because my sheets are older. That's about it. So I'll tell them, I'm like, Mr. Jones, you can upgrade to the complete, or you can get that in-between set called the signature set, okay? But I hope you guys are looking at my facial expression, right? It's always about the complete, right?
Yeah. He doesn't.
I really do it, by the way. It's not just, and it sells. So, just letting you know. Okay, so then I'll put the set right here, right? And I always leave my book on the complete set, always, because that's the vision, right? That's what everybody wants to have. So it's important for them to have that. I don't know how much time do I have. I guess it doesn't matter. Okay. So, quick thing for you guys. This is a really, really cool thing for annual appointments, and I think all of you guys should have this. So this is. Can everybody tell me what this is? Nice. Yes. He knows all the jokes. Okay, so yes, there's a joke. Like one of my Colombian customers, and no stereotyping, but. He said, wow, you have your own stash. I'm like, Mr. Jones, it's to clean the knives. She's like, oh, yeah, I'll get cleaned up, all right. But we do live in Miami, so anything's possible. Okay, so this is something that every single one of you should have on your appointment. So you can buy it at Publix for like $1.79. It's called Barkeeper's Friend. Everybody knows what that is? Okay. No, so Barkeeper's Friend is right next to Comet and Ajax and all that kind of stuff. It's a cleaner. It's a stainless steel cleaner. And basically, it really cleans the knives really well. And if there's any other like water spots or stains or anything like that. So for people that own Cutco, when you come to their, by the way, this costs you $2. When you go to their house and you have that, and then they're like, oh, I have some spots here and blah, 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 and you clean that for them, like the respect that they have for you goes from like 1 to like 6 at least. And you become, they look at you like more like a perspective of a professional. You know what you're talking about. Does that make sense? You want to add those little things that don't cost much, but that makes a big difference. That impresses people. Okay? So, all right. So Barkeeper's Friend. We'll skip the service call thing for now. So let's go to evaluate and educate. Okay, so when it comes to, we're gonna probably take one scenario. What would be the best scenario to take? All right, let's vote here. So who here gets more few pieces? Like the people have few pieces when they see Cutco owners. Okay, so who here gets, they have a small set and you want to upgrade them?
Yeah.
Okay, so that seems to be the biggest. Who here has like a ton of ultimate sets and they need to sell them more? All right, so we got to answer. So the most common is obviously that they have something small and they probably think that it's enough, right? And then trying to get them to something bigger. Okay, so we're going to assume that they have a galley. Okay, the galley is fine. Okay, so Mrs. Jones, here's what I'm going to do. So you already have the knives. One of the things that I also do is put the knives away. And this is a big part of my appointment. To get the people involved, I get them to wash their knives while I'm there. So I'm like, okay, so if I'm sharpening the knives, now you guys, if you're not sharpening the knives, but you're using Barkeeper, whatever it is, make sure you do it with them. Don't just tell them to do it. Just do it with them. Because that creates that bond and it makes things much easier and much more fun. Okay? You guys get that? Okay, so now we're sitting down and I'm showing them, I'm like, okay, so you have the homemaker, it's all in the block or it could be in the drawer. Just don't let them have all their knives on the table because one of the things that's very annoying is when people say, well, I already have that one. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, do you really think I would show you something you already have? I don't say it like that, but I'm like, well, I would not show you anything you don't already have. Exactly. Okay, so, Mr. Jones, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you 3 different options of upgrades, okay? So you could upgrade to the basic set, you could upgrade to the signature set, and you could upgrade to the complete set, okay? So here are the pieces that you're missing. And I'll show you a little bit even later on how the prices work. You do get the best deal on the bigger thing, but sometimes people will have to start and kind of build up from there, okay? It's important to say that because then they're not, and maybe you guys want to write this down, you can always build up from there. It's important to say that because you guys ever feel that some people, it's either they do all of it or nothing?
Yeah.
Don't you hate that? Right. So I'm going to tell you, I was that rep back in the day when I first started selling Cutco. That I had an average order on demos, and it's like I had like 6 appointments. It's either I sold $1,000 or no sale, $1,000 or no sale, $800 or no sale. Like I was that rep, and that rep is limited because that rep will never take it to the next level if you don't have all the additional people. Okay. Like when I look at my year, I'll put it in perspective for you guys. When I look at my year, I sold 300 grand last year. I believe somewhere around, I had 535 orders, so that's an average of $500, $400, no, $600, right? That includes people that have called me to buy stuff. They lost a knife, whatever. People that have gone on my website and they buy stuff from me, by me not knowing, but that was like the amount of orders I had. But when you look at the orders that I wrote up myself, like I had probably, I would say, 40% of my orders were like under $400 or $500, and then the rest of them were higher. But you think about 30%, that's $100,000 that I wouldn't have sold last year if I did not focus on changing that mindset of either big or nothing. And some of you guys in the room, you know who you are like that. I'm going to try not to stop at anybody, but I know some of you that are like that. Okay? So, it's very important. It wasn't you. But that makes a big difference. So I really want to teach you guys how to be able to not only get the big orders, but to get the ones in between. You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So by having that sentence, by the way, it's the first key, which is you can get the upgrade to the basic, to the signature, to the ultimate, the complete, or we can do like a package where you can build up from there. Okay? So here's what you're missing for the basic set. So what I'll do is that I'll go straight for the ones that they don't have, right? So the first one they don't have is the butcher knife. Now, you guys have a hard time selling this knife? Good. I'm glad to hear that. I love that knife. Are you kidding me? This is like the man's knife. Okay. So I'm like, Mrs. Jones, depending on how people react to it, I'm like, this is one of the most, those are the key words, by the way. Mrs. Jones, this is one of the most traditional knives in a kitchen. So if you guys want to write this down, if you guys got it, that's fine. But like telling them that makes them understand. This is like in most households you'll find a knife like this. I'm like, this is one of the most traditional knives in the kitchen. Now some people, if they don't know what it's for, they tend to not pick it up or they tend to not know what it is, so they're not excited about it. But do you ever cut raw meats? You ever cut raw meats?
Yes.
Raw meats? Okay.
Yes.
So this is the knife for that. Any other knife that you use that you'll currently have is going to shred it. Now, some people think they can use that knife. So this is important for you guys, especially if you see the person is not responding, to like really explain to them. Like some people think they can use this knife, but what happens is that with this knife, they're trying to do it like this, but the knife is really made to be cutting on this side. And here's why. You see how it goes like this? This is how you cut this knife. This gives you the leverage to use it. If you use this point, you're making a very big mistake compared to that. So here's what happens with this. See, when you're cutting your meat, you want to be able to go all the way around. You know how sometimes you're trying to finish that cut? So this goes all the way around and just finish it off. And it's not like they complement each other, but they can't replace each other because you can't do this. Okay? I literally do those things because sometimes people don't get it. And if you can impress the person by educating them right away, then they pay attention more to you for the rest of the appointment. Does that make sense? So I showed them this, and I showed them that. I'm like, this is like one of the most essential pieces in the set. Okay. So then I tell them, and the basic set, really, you're very, very close to it, because then all you need to finish it off By the way, I clean my knives almost every time that I pull them out. Mrs. Jones loves that. She's like, you got respect for your knives. Yes, I do. Okay. And Mrs. Jones, this is the carving set. So the carving set, now, what do you guys usually get if you're showing the carving set or you have a gallery? I already have it.
Oh.
Right? You guys ever get that? I'm like, well, Mrs. Jones, it's actually a little bit different. It's important to kind of be visual because sometimes people don't get it until they see. Does that make sense? I'm like, see, this is like more like a turning fork, like an everyday thing for you to hold on and flip things. This is an actual carving fork. So whether you're carving your meat or if you want to transfer things, you can actually use both forks together. Do you guys grill ever? Yes. So this would be one of your most like popular pieces to bring outside is the carving fork. And it's very curved and all that kind of stuff, so it doesn't really slide in and out of the meat. So I'm like, and this is kind of like you and your husband. They go together. I do make that joke, and they love it.
Yeah, I do.
It's really cool. They actually really like it. I'm like, and you got a bunch of babies.
Thank you.
I do that too, by the way. Okay, so this is like your basic set, and you get a couple.
You got flexibility, so
You sure?
I purposely put an extra secret hour in there, knowing how good because I'm genius.
I mean, I could use another 20 minutes, 30 minutes if you want.
You guys want more info?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. You got it.
Okay.
He's like, okay.
It's like, I'm going to go to the gym. Okay. So then I show them this, and I'm like, and you get the bigger block, which will fit everything that you have. Now, this is the key here. You have to keep repeating. This is a very key point here. There's certain things that people need to hear more than once on your appointment. And this is one of them. One of them is, Mrs. Jones, you'll be able to put everything you have and these extra pieces in the block. And they all fit together. So you don't have anything like laying around. It all fits together. Like, I'll literally repeat that 3 or 4 times because the first time they might not get it. Does that make sense? But over time, they get it, and it makes a big difference. I have so many people at the end, they're like, and it's going to fit everything? I'm like, how many times did I tell you? But that's just how it is. Okay. So, but Mrs. Jones, now the next thing I'm going to show you, what's cool about the next upgrade, by the way, for your guys' perspective, although this is on the table right now, I don't leave it on the table. It's on my lap. And there's a reason for that, so I'll tell you why. It's because it creates desire.
It's one of the 6 laws of persuasion.
People want to know. Why don't you show it to me already? I'm like, you gotta wait, Mrs. Jones. Okay, so, oh my God, you guys have dirty minds. Okay. That's okay, I get it. All right, so then I'm like, here's the signature. So here's what's really cool. What's really cool is that you only get 4 more pieces. That's it. 4 more pieces. So believe it or not, you guys might think, and this is like a psychological thing for people, you might think that telling them, hey, you get like 4 more pieces. Well, for some people that are very excited about more knives, that sounds great. For some other people, it might not sound very good because it's too much. Does that make sense? So depending on how the customer is, you want to tone it down, okay? So you're like, you only get 4 more pieces. Just like it's like, it's only 1,500, it's only 2,500. I love when a customer's like, only. I'm like, I know. Isn't that great? Okay, so so the signature set you only get 4 more pieces, and the first one are the shears. Now a lot of people might already have the shears. That's like a great selling point. By the way, Mrs. Jones, your super shears are gonna fit right here, and it's gonna save you money because you don't have to buy them for the upgrade. Don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to say to a customer you're gonna save them money, or because they have something, it's gonna save them money. Because people can see that you're there for them. That's the biggest thing. Okay? People won't care until they know that you care. When they see that you care about them, and you're trying to bring value to them, they will start caring about what you have to say too. So, who has a problem selling this knife? I hope not. Okay. This is the heatiest knife to sell. Okay, so this is really cool, right? So a lot of times, this is a strategy tip here. I won't show you this. I won't show this as the second one. You know why? Why? Because it's the best one, right? If you show them this one first, and then you show them the other one's like, eh. But if you show them the other one, and you're building up the other one, and then you're like, you get this one, okay? Then it's interesting how it can make a difference for a customer, right? So now, so you get the cheese knife, but I'll use it for the end. You also get, by the way, who has all these pieces? Who does not have all these pieces? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to tell you guys, the biggest advice I can give you today, besides all these things I'm sharing with you, is that when I started selling Cutco, I realized the more Cutco I had, the more I would sell. So I was that person that blackmailed. She wasn't my manager, but my district manager, I blackmailed him to give me all the Cutco that I could. I'm like, okay, so if I make 100 calls tonight, can you give me like a knife? If I can cancel, like if I do 10 appointments this week, 20 appointments this week, can I get this knife? Can I get that knife? If I go active advertising, can I get this much? Can I get this much? I mean, I was like that rep. All I pay is off, so they can complain, but I was that rep. I would ask and ask and ask, but I would give. I would give. I would do what I said I'm going to do, but I wasn't afraid to ask. I have every single thing that Cutco makes, and I can tell you guys that's a big secret. Because the more you have it to show, the more they'll buy it. That's just the bottom line. There's so many times where I could explain to somebody how awesome the vegetable knife, but if I don't cut with it, they don't give a crap about it. But you have it, you show it to them, you make them cut with it, they buy it. It's the weirdest thing. It works. Who has a problem selling this knife? Don't be shy, guys. We're a small group. This is our chance. Petite Santoku. This is like the coolest thing to like show to a customer. So I'm gonna give you guys the goods on this one. So Mrs. Jones, you know how you have that chef's knife that sometimes you don't pick up as much because you think it's a little big? Well, this is why we have this knife. Because it is the smallest chopping knife that you can have. It's extremely comfortable. My mom calls it the extension of her hand. And it just makes it really easy for very, very nice chopping and dicing. Very, very important, especially for herbs. Do you ever cut herbs? Cilantro, basil, that kind of stuff? Most people do, you know? And if they don't, I tell them, well, you know how healthy it is to actually use real herbs, right? So don't be afraid to say that, by the way. Like I talk, and this is actually a really good point for you guys, I talk about health with my customers a lot. About what's healthy, organic food, that kind of stuff. So it really gets into putting them in the mood of like cooking more. The really cool thing about today in our generation, a lot of people are thinking about health more and more. You guys agree?
Yeah.
This is like the best time to sell knives because people are cooking more at home. Isn't that true?
Yeah, you're so right.
People are cooking more at home. They're thinking about health. Well, the best thing to be healthy is to cook at home. Because you don't know what you get at the restaurant. It's fun, but it's not healthy. So teaching them your customers, I'm like, you know, one of the things that my customers love about Cutco is that it helps them cook at home. Okay? It helps them because they have the right tools. So those are all little things, by the way, that you plant some seeds when you're on your appointment, and it really helps make it easy for you. So Also, if you want to cut with this, very important if you have the knife to cut with it. And then the last one. So you guys got that? You guys are good? 15 Sentoku? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last one. Now the last one, Mrs. Jones, it's kind of like a bad boy. So I always have like a different way to present something to get them excited about it. I'm like, this is the bad boy of the set. This is kind of like that utility knife that you like. What's the utility knife? Yes. It's kind of like that utility knife on steroids. Imagine you gave it like a bunch of spinach and it became like bigger and and it's like ready to like do some damage. This knife is awesome. This is good for things like pepperonis, salamis. When I grill, actually, this is the knife that I bring. Beck can tell you because she's been to my 4th of July parties. And this is like the knife that you'll see next to my grill, right here. This is like the strongest knife like in that set. The other thing is it's good for anything that has like a thick skin, so things like lemons and limes. Believe it or not, it makes a huge difference when you cut it with this. So I always get him to pick, like, to grab a lemon and lime. It sells this knife like crazy. So squash, all that kind of good stuff. But some people don't have it, but you know, usually they'll have the lemon and lime. So I try to remember things that most people will have in their house. Does that make sense? You know, they might be, oh, I'm not that sophisticated. So, well, maybe you should, Mrs. Jones. Okay. Okay, so then, are you guys pretty okay with the signature set?
Yeah.
Would you buy a signature set from me?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay. All right. So, okay, so now it's the complete. So I'm like, now I'm going to show the pieces that comes in the complete, Mrs. Jones. I get very serious when I talk about that. Okay? So they know, like, this is it. Okay? Now, so a lot of customers I have found, luckily, you know, there's something you have to understand. When you live in a certain area, like here, people do actually appreciate a cleaver. There's certain areas of the country where they don't. But you don't have to be afraid of the cleaver in Miami or in Fort Lauderdale, even in Palm Beach. Like, this whole area, like, they actually appreciate cleaver. So don't be afraid to grab that baby cleaver right here. Okay? Who has a cleaver? Oh, man, not enough people. You have one, Zach?
Remember when I had
I'm
a
gonna cut your
bullet?
head with that one. Huh?
Remember when I had a bullet?
Yes, it did. It did. So, cleaver, Mrs. Jones, this is the protector of your set. This is, every household should have a cleaver. That's the first thing I say. You guys should write this down. Every household should have a cleaver. It's good for coconuts, and you can actually peel the coconut. And I tell them the story. I actually had a roommate that bought this big machete and was like trying to like cut the coconut because I have 4 coconut trees at my house, and he's like, I'm gonna eat all those coconuts. I'm like, all right. It gets like the machete and trying to like cut through it, and he didn't do anything. And I'm like, dude, I have a cleaver. He's like, but that's too small. I'm like, I know size matters, but not when it comes to Cutco. So we grab this, and we actually peeled it off, and then you flipped it around, and you use this to crack the coconut open. I can tell you guys, it's actually amazing. So when you actually explain that to customers, huh? And I tell them, like, I have a dog, and sometimes she needs to take medication, so I have to crush the medication with it like that. I make all kinds of jokes, like, you know, like, so don't be afraid to say that. But I tell them, I'm like, Mrs. Jones, I had a customer that actually sold me on how awesome this knife was. And what he said was, I'm going to get a piece of frozen meat, I'm going to take it out, and sometimes it's really annoying to let it thaw out completely and then put half of it back in the freezer. It's very bad for the meat, right? So he said, if this meat coming out of the freezer, you can cut it with a cleaver, I'll buy the complete set. And I was like, all right, let's start the challenge. Put the cutting board out. We called all the kids. Everybody came out. By the way, I tell that story. So I'm like, and everybody's hanging out. We have the cutting board right here. Put your meat down. And I grabbed the cleaver. Everybody was waiting. And I just, ¡pum! And I literally say that, by the way. And then the meat literally did. So what do you think I sold? So we didn't have steak knives back then. But I would have. They actually did buy the steak knives later. So I gotta tell you guys, like, you gotta tell your customers how awesome this knife is. And here's another tip for you guys. Sometimes you see customers that have like a petite chef, and you can see that it's like damaged right here. Do you guys ever see that?
Yep.
First thing when I get to the house, you need a cleaver. First thing I say, you need a cleaver. The petite chef. It's usually the petite chef that they damage like that. They're trying to like cut like a bone or something like that. You need a cleaver, okay? Like you have to be very confident about it because they do. You need a cleaver, okay? So that's the first thing that I show. The second one that I show is this one. Now, for those of you that don't have the knives, you need to just have the sheet and really promote the heck out of it, okay? But what you need to do as fast as possible is get them. I'm going to tell you, it is so worth it. Actually, if you're serious about making some money this summer, I'll give you a tip. The gourmet set, you can buy it for like $150, I think. 170 for 170, and it comes with a roll-up and everything. And you have the cleaver, the vegetable knife, the sentoku, the hardy slicer, and the boning knife. That's like $700 of stuff that you get for 150. I got that, by the way, my first 2 months on the job. Because in my mind, okay, I'm going to spend $150, but the first time that I saw an ultimate, because I have these pieces, I'm going to make that money back. And every other time after that. Does that make sense? So, I mean, literally, I'm the kind of person I'll go on the computer, like there's a sample for sale, I'm getting it. Because I want to have every single piece of Cutco possible. So don't, and you guys might even find other stuff too on there. It's not just a gourmet set. There's like the flatware, you know, sample and all that kind of good stuff. Pretty much. Okay. By the way, who here, is everybody here over 10 grand in career sales? No? Everybody over 6 grand in career sales?
Yes.
Very much. Who's not over 6 grand? Okay. That's coming. You'll get there. You'll get to 10 grand. There you go. You'll get there. I was at 6 grand at some point, I promise. So, and I remember vividly. So, no, actually, you know what? I'll give you some very, very good perspective. Who here can guess what my fast start was?
2,000.
25.
You know. You heard me say this so far. 1,800. That was my fast start. First campaign, 11,000. Now, it was 12 years ago. And it was, but just to kind of put in perspective of what can happen as you grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, we're having a great time. Okay. Okay. So, this is actually one of my most used knives in the kitchen. And now, you might not be able to say that, but what you can say is, this is one of the most useful knives in the kitchen, Mrs. Jones. And here's why. Do you ever cut chicken breast like in half? Do you ever want to cut that chicken breast that you bought at Costco or whatever that's kind of thick and you kind of want to fillet it, butterfly it so you can grill it faster, right? Everybody's going to say what?
Yes.
Yes. So this is, although it was made for salmon and fish and for filleting, but if you don't cook that, which I don't, and I tell them that, but this is what I use it for. I use it for the chicken. It is the best knife for that. I'm like, Mr. Jones, I have the complete set. I've tried every knife. This is the knife for that. You can see how flexible it is. You see how much thinner it is. And it just makes it like a smooth cut and just goes right through it. So this is actually a very easy knife to sell once you like connect with them with the chicken. Okay? And then you can kind of go over some of the rest of the pieces. Remember, if you don't have the knives, you can always show it to them in the paper. So 4-inch paring knife, I'm trying to go over all the pieces, but I do want you guys to know that sometimes you might not have time to go over all the knives with them. Okay? You guys get that?
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes you might have to pick some of the pieces that are essential. So what I do is that I pick the ones that they don't have any of for sure. So for example, like a salmon knife, they don't have that. and I want to like spend a little bit more time with it, and then I'll tell him, by the way, you get a second paring knife because a lot of people like it, blah, 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 boom. So I'm giving you guys tips on dealing with pressure, okay? Time constraints, okay? And then the vegetable knife, I don't know what I can say about this knife. It's just freaking amazing. It looks like a whale. It looks like a whale. And you can kind of like cut with this. The best part about it, Mrs. Jones, is that you have this wide area so you can kind of pick things up and just throw it out in the pan. People love to hear that, right? So don't be afraid to kind of go over that, but always be open knowing that you need to focus on things that are going to wow them and then kind of go over the rest of it very quickly. How much time do I have?
How much do you really need, like, for sure?
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's no Q&A.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
You're good.
All right. Santoku. This is a piece that you guys want to talk about if you haven't talked about the Petite Santoku, right? Because people, it's like the Japanese style knife. It's one of the most popular things. Rachel Ray has them. By the way, if you guys don't know, Rachel endorses Cutco. You guys know that?
Yeah.
On her website, she literally said to buy Cutco knives, although she has her own line. Just so you guys know. So if you can look for that article. It's a really cool article to have in your book. Okay? All right, so you guys got some goods over here?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's move a little bit so I can make sure I can give you the best and maybe open for some Q&A. Transition. We can skip over that because I'm good here. All right, so I'm going to show you guys how to close. I think that's the most important thing at this point. Okay, so I always use the back of an order form. That's like kind of creates the expectation. Jeff actually, when I was really young in the business, used to say before he went on an appointment, he would write down. You guys ever told you that story?
Oh, yeah.
He would write down the names and everything. I was like, oh my god, that's old. I like it. I like it. Okay, so here's what I do, and then we can. I think it'll be good to have Q&A. So I'm gonna make this as simple as possible. So, basic signature complete, okay? So I write it all down here. Key thing is, you guys want to probably write this down. Yeah, just do the drawing on your paper. So I'll write down the price of the set. So the one thing that I do is that I'll write down the price of the actual set on top so they know how much it would be if they didn't have anything. But while I'm doing the calculations, I don't show them this, okay? I'll literally go and kind of do my own thing on the side, and I'm like doing this, or I'm holding on to something, making sure that they're not really trying to read what's going on. Does that make sense? Because that's very important, because they get confused and they're kind of making up their mind as they're looking at the numbers. So you want to make sure that you're not writing a lot of numbers until you show it to them. Okay? Keyword here. Okay, so now what I do is that I start writing stuff down. So I do block, carving set, butcher knife, and 2 table knives, right? Over here, I'll call it block, and I'll put shears, I'll put cheese knife, Petite Santoku hardy slicer, and 2 more table knives. Now, couple of nuggets here. When I do an upgrade nowadays, I tell my customers, because you're doing an upgrade, you have an opportunity to upgrade to the steak knife as well. So that means you can keep your table knives, and I can fill up the rest of your block with the steak knives. Does that make sense? So you might want to give them that option at the end, and to give them. So if they say, "Oh, I would love that," so just go straight for giving them the price with the 2 extra steak knives. Does that make sense? I have a ton of customers that I have like 6 table knives and 6 steak knives. Hopefully one day they'll give the 6 table knives to somebody else and fill up the rest with steak knives, right? So you gotta keep doing that. And then, so what I'll use is, let's say this is like $600. Okay, just for argument's sake. So I'll write down $600, and I'll give them 15% off, which is $90, and then which brings it down to $510, and then 5 payments of probably $125. So $600. I do not itemize the prices over here, because then they want to like, oh, well, what if I just get this, right? If you want to do a lot of upgrades, you can't itemize it. So what does that mean about the prices? You need to know them. Guys, it's really not that hard. You can learn all the prices of all our knives in one day. You could go tonight and just like review with somebody else, and boom, you'll know it. It will make you so much money to know the prices and to be confident. You gotta have them. You gotta have them. So, so $600, and I'll write down 15% off, and I'll write down you save. I make it that real big. You save 50% off of $90, so it's only $510, and the payments are $125. Okay? You do the same thing over here. Quick little thing for you guys, just to help you guys. When I go over here, I take that $600 and in my head, and I add that to the difference of the price of the 2 blocks. Does that make sense at all? Or I'm confusing you. So I'll tell you guys. This is just a trick for you guys to calculate stuff quickly. How much is the basic block? 134, 137. How much is the signature one?
237.
No, it's 260, 276. 276. So the price difference is like 142. So I'll add, so that's the price difference of the 2 blocks. You guys get that?
Yeah.
So if I add this total for the upgrade plus the 142, they're now getting the homemaker in the signature block. You guys okay with that? And then I'll keep adding the rest of the pieces. And if I completely confuse you guys can just write the block prices and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just trying to teach you guys for easy things. So then let's say this adds up to 1,300, right? So add up to 1,300, I do the same thing. I put the save, I put the new number, and I deduct the payments. I do the same thing over here, okay? And then at the end, so very simple, at the end I'll be like, so Mrs. Jones, which one do you like to get? The basic one, the signature one, or the complete one? China, what do you think? That's what I'm talking about. Okay, quick other thing though, before we go more deeper into this. Some of you might have a question, well, what about accessories and all that kind of stuff, right? So as I go through my appointment, what I forget to mention is after I show them the sets, I do show them the rest of the book. Okay? That means that I'm going to show them the flatware. By the way, the flatware is one of the things you definitely should buy. It's probably like $30 or $40 to get the whole sample. You sell one set, it's like $1,000. Like, you gotta have that. So, or try to win it. And I show them the bacon serve set. I show them all the accessories. I get really, really enthusiastic about all the accessories. And I go over the sporting stuff. I go over the hunting stuff. I go over the garden tool set. And I go over the barbecue set. And if they have interest for the cookware, I'll go over the cookware. And you guys, as the summer goes by, we'll probably talk more about cookware. But the bottom line is, the question people always ask, do you show them the other stuff before you close? The answer is yes. And do you guys know why? I'll tell you why. So the reason is because you want them to bring that list higher. Does that make sense? Yeah. The higher you start, the higher you'll land. That's the bottom line. So don't ever take that for granted. If a customer gives you the signs that they might not want to spend that much money, that doesn't mean you need to just like, okay, do you want to buy 2 knives? No. In fact, you want to start as high as possible because, and you want to give them options, right? That's why I give options. So you want to start as high as possible, so then they can be like, okay, I can't do this, but I could do that. Does that make sense? So you don't want to prejudge. You don't want to make that decision for them until you present your case. The bottom line is, if they were going to just buy the 2 knives, you'll probably get there anyway. But you're jeopardizing your opportunity with the people that could have bought more. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's the bottom line. So don't jeopardize that opportunity. Once you close, always, always, always ask for upselling. Okay? Upselling is my favorite thing. I would say most of my orders will go down from, if I'm closing, $1,000, it might go down to like $900 or $800 and go back up to like $1,100 just because I upsold. And a lot of it might go down to $500, but then it'll go back up to $700. And that's why I said my average order is between $700 and $900, because a lot of times it's just that $700 mark, and a lot of times it's over $900 too. So, but the bottom line is always ask for a gift. Like, that's very important. People that have Cutco, don't be afraid to have them buy something for their friends or their family. Here's why. I'll tell you 2 reasons. Number 1, it'll make your money today, right?
Yeah.
Number 2, they'll give it to somebody. That person will get it. And what can that person become? Your customer too. Does that make sense? So don't forget about adding, hey, Mrs. Jones, by the way, because you bought this, I can give you the same percentage discount on an extra item or on a gift set for your daughter. You told me that she's getting married or she's just moving to a house or she likes to cook. So that $100, $125 Club Mates that comes with the 2 knives, I could give it to you for $100. So then you only pay $20 more per payment. Easy. You just got your CPU an extra $100, right? So always, 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 always. Like, it's beautiful just to see how you just ask for one more thing. Okay? How that could actually make a difference. So, do we have questions? Do we have time for questions?
Yeah, time for 1 or 2.
Okay.
Maybe.
1 question, 2 questions.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, let's see if we can have time at the end. We might be able to squeeze some of it.
At the end?
Yeah.
At the end.
End of the meeting.
Perfect.
Can we give Ms. Mandy a round? As we catch up, we'll take 30 to 45 seconds. Biggest take for some key takeaways. Just curious. Things that are light bulb moments, things that are exciting for you. Don't go into too much detail. I'll need like no more than 7 or 10 seconds. Go ahead, Brian.
Huge line that you said, complement each other but can't replace each other. I thought that was huge for like when you're explaining the knife, like, oh, these knives go good together, but one that can't go without the other.
Right. Good. Excellent. Marquise.
The different facial expressions for the complete because it shows confidence. And that they should get it.
Yeah, it's just the collection. I know. I've heard this so many times. Yeah.
They buy pieces and just build up from there.
Yeah, build a collection.
Yeah.
That's what I've learned that from Andy. But easier to build your collection. We'll go this way back over here, Mike.
Just the whole thing is not being afraid to face different things, such as, particularly not being afraid to talk about health.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that, especially nowadays, right? Everybody's more conscious. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, definitely planting seeds, like walking into the door. Awesome.
Where's your block? Who did that to you? Right, Kevin.
I'm definitely going to print out a Rachel
Yeah. Rachel Ray boosts our knives. How about that?
And she makes knives.
Yeah, and she has her own line to sell. How about that, Margarita?
Definitely just knowing the prices, so you know what you're doing. You're not some college kid that has a book that's showing you some really awesome product. You know your stuff.
Can I tell you something? If you want professional size orders, you have to present professionally. Think about that. If you present like a college student, you get college student orders. And the big ones are luck. How about that? So if you want to be professionally earning income, like the big bucks, you have to professionally present. I learned that from Sarah Locke last year. 2 years ago, she said, the only way I'm going to make the big income is so I can present in a way that earns the big income. And that's even you can be 17 and learn that. By the way, we'll go this way. JJ, quick.
The more nights you have, the more nights you sell.
That's easy. That's fast start. All right, good.
Push and pull. Just push and pull effect by not having everything out, like having some stuff on your lap if you have to roll it, and then just
a little suspense, if you will. Right? Good. Back.
Simply the butcher knife for me, which I didn't know, so never saw that again. And the salmon knife for chicken breast. So one with bleach. That's it.
Yeah.
Those are not too bad.
How good is that?
Best things ever.
How great is that? Go ahead.
Because
Shayna.
bribing your way to get more knives. I feel like it not only does it get you more knives, but it helps you work even harder
Of course.
during your
Of course.
demos.
And SLDM, any attendees from SLDM? using free points to get more reps.
Yes.
A little 60-40?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is towards the end, but just don't forget all those tips from the SLDM. The magic phrase about the DSA, 60-40 rules, all that. Go ahead.
My favorite thing is just how all the small things that you do, like the $1 here, the $2 there, whatever, putting into your demo can just make you sell. Like he said, get some flatware for $30. So you're gonna sell a chest that's $1,000. You make, if you're happy, you make $500.
Yeah, you're gonna invest to make money,
Get the
right?
markings, just keep it little details.
Look at
that
his
make
kit.
it
It's a luggage.
That's the greatest thing I ever saw.
Yeah, my rep bag, and I wasn't as cool. I had this big Tommy Hilfiger duffel bag. That's how old I am, Tommy Hilfiger. So it was this big, and I just carried it. It was heavy. I still like it. It's when Tommy Hilfiger first came out. I think the coolest thing ever. So we'll do one more takeaway. One more takeaway. Pretty awesome. Now, can we give Randy one more time? Round of applause? Okay. Let's do this. For the sake of time, I want to make sure we don't cut any information short. We're not going to have time for a full out break. If you put your stuff down, stand up, join me in a power stretch real quick, please. Oh. You're from my office. You know how this rolls. You know how this works. Ready? Everyone follow me. Inhale, arms up, hands to the chest, nose up, chin to the ceiling. 1, 2, 3, inhale. Exhale real slow. Okay, arms up, bring them down slowly. Hands on your hips, lean to your right. Your right, genius. Your right, genius. Your right is that way. Then to your left. Some of you are still confused. Like this.
Left is this way. My left.
Everyone lean back.
Your left. I'm so
Okay.
confused.
Arms in, elbows in, we'll twist. Core tight. Take a big inhale on the tippy toes, arms to your chest, nose up, inhale through the nose. Tippy toes, exhale, go slow. Okay, hands on your hips, look up, chin to the ceiling. Head down. Look straight, lean to the right. Like, huh? What? ¿Qué? ¿Cómo? What? Other side. What? What? Okay, one more time. Big inhale. Exhale. Hard exhale in 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Turn to your role play partner. Turn to the person next to you. High five in the air. Say thank you.
Thank you.
For being so awesome.
So awesome.
Hey, by the way, there's someone who didn't get awesome high five. Give him awesome high five. A couple people missing. All right. Have a seat. If you're ready, say let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. If you're ready, say let's go.
Let's go.
If you're ready, say let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, yes. Some more key line. So, moving on, all these messages are exciting. You still have we have 3 more action-packed messages. We get to hear from Mario just right now. We're going to hear from Kathy on closing, and Lamar's going to wrap us up with the phone. Here's what I will say. They're all very important. What I will tell you from someone who sold a lot my first summer, not having a lot of trainings like this, my summer changed when I got to SC1. I remember thinking bigger after SC1. I got these tips. I can tell you anything Mario and Kathy, myself, Lamarck, and Andy will teach, a lot of the basic fundamentals that came from SC1. So get invited, which you guys are invited. Second, the importance of building rapport. And I think one of the things you may underestimate is that when you're a college student working with Cutco, which is 85% of you, 90% of you, that's the biggest advantage of the world, to be a student working with us. And someone who's maximized that has been Mario. Mario, his first summer came on the scene at SC1 and never looked back. He was a scholarship winner, an easy Dirty 30/AGL management acceptance. He went on to really just have a stellar career with us, and he's continued his career as a student at the University of Miami, became a district manager for a couple of months. We decided to take him back to the selling route. He's now, this year, on pace for selling well over 6 figures in Cutco. We're excited for that. As a full-time student, by the way, I'm really excited about that. And Mario has just really understood the process of how do you tie your customers into your goals. I could sit here and tell you the accolades. Just know that everyone speaking here today has sold a lot of Cutco, and they're on the program for a reason. I want to share with you that Mario's power and his strength comes from his ability to get people to want to participate, to get people tied in. So I have a handout which is going to go around. It's actually in the back. Mike, it's on my computer, and Mario will help distribute it. So Mario's going to talk about how do you share your goals, how do you tie people in. This is a message he's given multiple times to the Miami office, but I can tell you can't hear it enough. I can also tell you there have been times I've seen students where they forget the power of this. You guys remember from SLDM, open, close the book, put it to the side? Let me start. You know, you guys. I know you guys remember that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say thank you? I'm not a knife salesperson. The reason I'm selling. Okay, you guys know that. He has taken that and run with it, and he's been able to take that last part. The reason I'm selling Cutco, you guys remember, right? So you open, you close the book. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, thank you so much. Put it to the side, okay? You thank them. Okay. I'm not a knife salesperson, okay? Right? Or have you heard of Cutco, right? Have you heard of Cutco? Okay. I'm not a knife salesperson. And then the fifth part right here, why I'm working with Cutco, this is Mario's talk. This is how you take what I taught you at SLDM, but you make number 5 more elaborate. And at the end, it's not uncommon. Raise your hand if you've ever had a customer say whatever they're looking at. So does this help you? Raise your hand if you've had that. If you have that, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, isn't that the best feeling?
Oh, yeah.
Like, so this helps you. So you know what that really does? If you look at the psychology of the customer, you know what that proves? They can all afford it. Right? When someone says that, it's like, well, we can afford this, so what we get is going to be based on what we talked about and help people. So none other than our FSM, senior FSM scholarship winner from the Miami office. Can we give a big round of applause, Mr. Mercer, about this?
What's going on, guys? So yes, like my talk, like Jeff said, is about sharing, tying your customers into your goals and sharing them. Some people here in the front row have already heard that talk, but I added new things. I'm always looking to make my talk as best as possible. So I have this little paper now. I'm not gonna say don't read it because I feel like if I say don't read it, you guys will read it. Just do me a favor, just like put it behind your notebook and just wait till I get to that part, right? Because I remember I forgot which meeting it was. Some either a staffer when I was district manager or some other conference. I remember Jeff saying that the hardest part for some sales representatives, the first part is transitioning from having a regular conversation into the actual presentation. And then the same thing from the presentation, how do you go from like showing the knives to then closing? How do you transition that? So like my talk will be number 5, tying customers into your goal, but I'm also going to kind of add in a little bit of the whole how to transition from the beginning to the conversation, from conversation transition to sharing your customers into goals, and from transitioning from customers to tying your customers into your goals to the actual presentation. So I hope this does really help for you guys. So guys, as far as sharing your customers into your goals, it all starts with rapport. It is part of the rapport building of your actual presentation. Who here still remembers their training, right? Does anyone here remember the 7 steps of training, of selling? What was the first step of any sale? Yeah, establish a connection with the customer to build rapport with the customer. So guys, that's the first thing you guys need to focus on. Establishing a connection with your customer and building rapport. So guys, what do you think it's important to first off, before you do anything, to actually establish a connection and build rapport with the customer? Any guesses? You can just shout it out loud. Make someone help you. We'll get to that part, okay? Okay, anything else?
Breaks the ice.
Breaks the ice.
Ask about them.
Ask about them, okay? No, not how. Why is it important?
So they can, if they trust you, then they'll trust the partner.
Okay, and Jordan, last one, what?
Helps build a long-term relationship.
Okay, so a lot of good answers. For me, the number one reason why you build a connection with your customer and rapport is trust. They need to trust you, okay? For some of you guys, it may sound scary. You're 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, and you're asking a 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old to give you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000. That may seem scary for some people, and for some people, like, I don't know if they're going to trust you with $1,000. So the first thing is to establish that trust in the customer, right? The customer to trust you. Number 2, of course, creating comfortability. That'd be the second thing. I remember hearing this. The customer is only as comfortable in purchasing the amount that you're comfortable asking for. Does that make sense? If you don't feel comfortable asking them to buy the complete set because you think $2,000 is a little bit out of your range, they're not gonna feel comfortable buying it, right? You might be one of those representatives that your first complete set sale was, how much does that one cost? Okay, I'll just get that one. Like, did you skip the whole demo? Has anyone had that presentation before? Like, oh, how much does that cost? Okay, I'll just get that, right? So if most people who don't have those presentations, right, it's important to create that comfortability, whatever the word is, right? A lot of people tell me, what if you're nervous, right? If you're ever nervous in the middle of the presentation, just stop whatever you're doing, just keep talking. Build a regular conversation until you brought yourself to their level. So creating comfortability would be one thing. And then number 3, of course, was to be creating a buying atmosphere. That would be the third thing I find the most important about building a connection. Creating a buying atmosphere. You guys have probably heard this before, but no one likes being sold. But people enjoy and love buying. How many of you guys here love buying and shopping, right? Online shopping, whatever it may be, right? So same exact thing. Creating a buying environment, okay? So as far as conversation goes, right? Does everyone remember, like, what is the number one thing people love talking about most? Themselves, right? Yeah. For those of you guys who are not very strong conversationalists, right? Sometimes the best conversationalist is just the best listener, right? It's not always about what you have to say; it's what they have to say, okay? And even if you're not good at conversating, if you're not actually really like an awkward person, just not so good in like interpersonal skills, one thing you have to remember is that having interpersonal skills is not a talent that you're born with. Right? It's a skill that you can learn. Everyone knows Michael Phelps, right? Great swimmer. Talent is just a multiplier for hard work. He naturally is talented, so therefore it may take him 8 hours to train. It may take you 80 hours, 800 hours, but everyone can get to a certain level of like maximum potential and achievement. Okay, so making sure to keep practicing rapport building, listen to talks, Vector Connect. There's a million talks on building rapport, tying customers into goals, how to have conversations, life books, etc., and so on. Right? For me, the best way I learned was becoming a manager, just constantly talking to people, running interviews, and so on. Right? So next tip for you guys, tip for conversation. Right? As far as conversation goes, some of you guys, Jeff definitely says this in his training, and I think Kathy does as well. But 55% of communication is nonverbals. Does that make sense? It's nonverbals. It is your body language. The smirks you make in your face, the way your hunch, the way you do with your hands. I believe 38% is your voice inflection, if I'm not mistaken. So the ups and downs of your voice, and 7% is what you're actually saying. So everyone says, you know, when you first welcome to the house, you're like, oh, how are you? Thanks for seeing me. What's the first thing you naturally say right after? Beautiful house, nice kitchen, nice painting, and so on. I learned this in RDC. Just actually say a compliment that you know what the hell you're talking about. Does that make sense? Don't be like, oh my god, I just love that art painting. It's just so, like, you know, surreal. You have no idea what the hell you're talking about. You know? You know? It's just postmodern. Pick something that you actually know about. You know, like if you know about gardening, talk about the garden. You know, whatever it may be. If you see the kid with a soccer ball in a picture, be like, oh my god, your kids play soccer? I play soccer. Talk about like something that you can really connect and be genuine about, because I don't care. One type of sales, I mean, like I guess they call it the old school sales, was like manipulative and like lying and all that, but that doesn't work in today's society. And even back then, it doesn't really give you the best return in business, right? The best way to really connect with the customer is to be genuine. I don't care what anyone says, but people are not stupid. They can see through you. Does that make sense? You ever so excited? Like my favorite movie is Lord of the Rings. Some people like roll their eyes, or like, oh, it's too long, you know, or I don't like that sci-fi stuff. But if you sit there for 5 minutes, let me talk to you about it, like you'll be like, all right, I'm gonna check it out, because I'm so excited and passionate about it, and I'm genuine about it. You're naturally gonna believe it and like share the same enthusiasm for it. So that's one thing. Actually, talk about things. Another tip is mirroring. This is another cool thing for you guys. The mirroring effect, a lot of you guys might have heard about this, might know some things from it, guys, but it's like one of the most important. There's a subconscious mind and your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind acts a lot faster than your conscious mind. This kind of long story short. So the mirroring kind of works on the subconscious part of the body. I think it's like within your first 2 seconds of meeting someone, you can decide whether you like them or not, and that's your subconscious brain speaking. So mirroring, for example, if you have one of those customers that are very shy and timid, you want to be shy and timid, just a little bit higher. A little bit higher. If you have that mom that's like all over the place, like super loud, funny, and laughing, you want to be just like her, but just a little bit higher. Why the energy a little bit higher? Because everyone knows that sales is an energy game. Right? The person with the most amount of energy wins. In a conversation, the person with the most amount of confidence, right, holds the power of the conversation and will sway the conversation to whichever way you want. So same thing. Right, so mirroring effect, right, and you can. This is a whole topic in itself because of the body language, matching their body language, what they do with their hands, etc. That's a whole topic in itself. But remember, mirror them, right? You don't like. It's the weirdest thing on the phone when someone calls. Let's say you picked up the phone, you're like, hello, and they're like, hi. You're like, oh crap, like who is this on the phone? What's the number one thing? Like, what are you selling? That's the first thing. I remember I used to do that. Sarah was there for that one. The person was like, hello? I was like, hi, my name is Mario. And she's like, what are you selling? And so I just started laughing. It's like, I told you so. You know, you don't want to be so loud. You want to, like, be the same as that. Okay? So, mirroring, that's a great little tip for you guys. Next thing, I already talked about the next one. Okay. So now, as you're finishing conversation, it's very easy. This is the best way I've learned. One tip will be from Andy that I learned from him a while back, and one tip I learned from Sarah Law. For those of you guys who don't know Sarah Law, right? As you're kind of finishing conversation and you want to start kind of getting into like tying your customers into your goals and all that, Andy, this is my one I go to, the go-to one I use. I just say, hey, so what is your dream in life? I ask them, what is your dream in life? And then I sit down like, You know, people don't really ask me that question too often. Like, I don't know, I've really thought about it in a while. And then they get into this big, deep conversation, guys. One thing you guys need to remember, deep conversation equals deep connection. All right, deep connection equals they're going to want to help you more with their scholarships, they trust you more sales, more recommendations, and so on. Oh, you know, I guess my dream is when my kids graduate from college, you know, and they go do their own thing. I kind of want to open up my own cafe. I'm like really good at baking. I'm really good at making coffee and these sandwiches, whatever it may be. I kind of just want to travel the world, Mario, so on. Normally when they're done with that, they're probably going to say, most likely, what's your dream? What's your dream in life? And then that's when you start transitioning to, well, let me talk to you about what I'm working on, and that's when you start the tying your customers into your goals. For some people, if you anyone had like one of those customers where they just like to get to the point already, right? This is what Sarah taught me. Sarah is like the guru of sales, in my opinion. I think she's so smart. Like, she's way beyond her years. Always ask for permission. Hey, is it okay if I like share with you my goals? Because the person who says no, they're gonna be like, well, at least he asked. Like, nice guy, you know. But 9 times out of 10, they're always gonna say yes. But the person who says no, at least they're thinking, at least he's like thinking about me, and it's not about him. Like, he respects my time, right? And if they say, yeah, sure, honey, go for whatever you want, and then you start tying your customers into your goals and so on. So that's kind of like the conversation, like quick little tips for you guys. So now, what my message is really actually about, tying your customers into goals. I've been to the Tony Robbins seminars. I've been to multiple conferences in the company. I've read a lot of life books, a lot of videos, cool audios, and so on, TED Talks, and so on, guys. And the #1 underlying theme I've heard from people who like talk about sharing customers into your goal, how to tie your representatives or your managers under you to like aim for one goal, is to choose a goal that you yourself are so excited about that it pulls you. Not that you have to keep pushing it. Right, you have to keep pushing. Like, waking up in the morning is hard, right? Something that like you wake up before the alarm clock goes off because you're afraid you missed it, type of thing. You know, like that, you want to find a goal like that, and it can be whatever you want. You know, I'm gonna talk about like different ways you can tie your customers into your goal. For me, the scholarship was cool because I wanted everyone to see my face, right? Type of thing, like just inflate my ego, type of thing. But like, I didn't necessarily care about the scholarship money and the scholarship. But I talked about my scholarship, but I never promoted like that's what I wanted. You know. So pick something that you're really actually excited about. If I remember Ricky Ballister, for those who work for Lauderdale, her cousin worked for me when I was manager in the Miami office, and her goal honestly was just to save enough money to go to Peru and visit her grandfather. Right? Something that really, and like she made like a book and it said, help me save money to go to Peru. Had a picture of her grandfather and a bunch of like llamas all around it. You know, so it's a goal that really motivates you to work. So that's the #1 thing. I remember when I first started. Guys, again, this didn't come naturally to me. I learned this. This didn't really click till I got to like $40,000, no, like $50,000 in sales. Does that make sense? This didn't click. I remember it was after I was like the big shot in the office. Just had a 12K fast start, and Sarah takes me field training, and like I really see her in the way she ties her customers into her goals and the way she connects with the customers. And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. Because before I'd come in, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I'm just doing this, you know. 1 out of 6 kids, want to help my parents, can't pay for college, you know, blah, blah, blah. People are like, oh, cool, you know, like, good luck on your goals at the end of the presentation type of thing. So you really want to find a real goal that really excites you about it. So, next thing. So another reason why you want to pick like a goal you're really truly passionate about, something that keeps you up, is because this is another cool quote. Going 99% at something is a bitch, right? But going 100% at something is a breeze. When you're fully committed to something, right, that's when you really, like, there's no excuses. You know you're up, you're working hard. But when you're 99% committed at something, that's where the real big bitch is, right? Where you start finding excuses every once in a while, and so on. Yeah, jump Roman, right? Jump Roman, right? So that's one good tip for you guys, all right? Well, so since everyone has different goals, again, I'm just gonna show you like a very general, vague way that I like to show. Like, it's just like a skeleton outline that you guys might really help about. Might help you guys choose your goals and the way to present it. And again, make sure that when you share your goals with your customer, to really be passionate about it. Share that passion for them so they get excited for you, right? Like, my goal for every presentation is always that when I leave the house, they're like, man, I wish my son and daughter was as motivated as you. You know, I've had people stop me before, like, hey, real quick, can you like talk to my son, like, tell him to do something with his life, like he wants to play video games or something, Don't get me wrong, I love video games. Like, I'm addicted. I remember when I went to go run my office, Jeff was like, "Yo, leave your Xbox behind." So there you go. This is like a basic thing you guys can write in the back or some notebook or something. I literally just try like a big funnel, right? In the bottom, you can put money for cash money and sales, right? Sales and recommendations, because we don't want to forget about recommendations. Recommendations is another huge part of the presentation. Okay, so you guys got the funnel? All right. So for those of you guys who have seen this talk, you guys probably know the first one, right? What is your dream in life? What is your dream in life? That's right. What is your dream in life? So you write, what is your dream in life? For me, like when I first started, I was like, I want to be Ari Gold. For those of you guys who watch Entourage, like that was my goal when I first started. It's changed, right? Now I just tell my customers I honestly just want to rule the world. And they're like, how? I'm like, I don't know yet. I'm gonna get there, right? So pick your dream in life, whatever it is. If it's a doctor, lawyer, physical therapist, if you want to go to the Peace Corps, whatever it may be, if you want to change the world and find a way to make everyone smile, whatever your goal is, it doesn't even have to be your goal in life, but like whatever you're really passionate about. It could be, you know, what is your dream? Like you want to, like Lisa, she wanted to find save enough money to go to Peru, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is. So what is your dream in life? For me, I wanted to be Ari Gold. This is my first summer. You know, like I wanted to be Ari Golds, right? So what's the next thing? The next thing is how can Cutco help you? How can Cutco help you? How can Cutco help you? So for me as Mrs. Jones, I want to be Ari Gold, Entourage, etc. I want to, you know, be like flashy lights. You know, I want the bling. I want the fast life, everything. I'm gonna get there. Branch manager. That's why I get there, to become a branch manager, to get that perfect resume. And I'd go on about branch management, and I have that for you guys later. But for me that's how Cutco would help me. To be 20 years old running my own office, to have my name in the front door. Right? When people walk in, they're like, who's this Mario guy? It's kind of like a badass. His name's in the front door type of thing. You know, like that's what I wanted. That's how Cutco would help me get there. And how did I get there? You know, so for me, how did I get there? The next thing is how do you get there? You know, how do you get there? So for me, it was to get to AGL school my first summer. Right? So my first summer, how did I get there, Mrs. Jones? I need to get into AGL school. And I was in the paper, it talks about like AGL school and like cool little verbiage you can say about describing it and so on. But I need to get into AGL school. In order for me to get into AGL school, I need to have a 20K SC1 push, a 10K SC1 push. I need to sell 20 grand for SC2. I need to sell 50 grand for the summer. Whatever it may be. I always tied into a sales goal. Always a sales goal. Because like Jeff said, CPO talks. You want to get on Jeff's radar, you need to sell. Right? Because if you guys run your own office one day, if you're managers, this may sound a little mean, but like, how are they going to respect you if they've sold more than you? Type of thing. Like, why does no one ever challenge Kathy? Because no one sold more than Kathy. Kathy herself has sold over $320,000 worth of Cutco the way you guys do it now. So like, it doesn't matter how much more you'll sell. You get 100, 150, she can still tell you what to do, and like, you still respect it because she knows she sold twice as much as you have. Type of thing. Right? So CPO talks. So for me, it was branch manager. How to get to branch manager? I need to get on Jeff's radar. In order to do that, I need to get to AGL school. In order to get to AGL school, I need to, you know, sell this much, win an All-American scholarship, whatever it may be. So again, so what is your dream? How can Cutco help? How do you get there? And last but not least, how can they help you? How can they help you? What are the top 2 ways they can help you reach your goals? Sales and recs. You need to buy a lot. You need to give me a lot of your friends' numbers, right? So that's kind of the end of the funnel. So that's kind of like a basic little skeleton, right, that you guys can like fill in. Whatever your dream is, right? So for me, if you guys want to copy mine, was rule the world, branch manager, AGL All-American Scholarship, and then just buy a lot, give me a lot of friends. Right? That's kind of like the whole funnel skeleton for it. And then we're going to go into more examples and like the way I say it, and like I have a little verbiage. So you guys can like memorize it if you want, read it from your presentations, I don't care, or like find your own, but it's like, it's got a lot of cool like sales plugs in there, a lot of cool like sales expectancies. Because the number one thing about I truly believe that tying your customers into your goals is the most important part of the presentation, right? Besides the actual closing, because in tying your customers into your presentation, right? When you talk about how big your sales goals are, like I want to sell $100,000 this summer, $50,000 this summer. You throw out these big numbers, they're like, wow, people must buy a lot of Cutco, or B, it's really damn expensive. So you really start like plugging in like sales expectancy. How you expect people to buy all the time. You expect them to buy, right? Number 2, right? you build up the price. Yeah, Mr. Jones, my goal this week is to sell $10,000. Like, what? Right? I used to, like, when I sold $28,000 in December, I sold $24,000 in 3 weeks. I had a 7K week, 10K week, and 7K week back to back. And I remember I'm like, all right, so I need to sell $5,000 by Monday. They're like, it's Friday. I'm like, yeah. So that's a lot. I'm like, well, not really. You know, this product is really expensive and people kind of buy it all the time. Type of conversation that I might have with them. So, like, this is why I love tying customers to goals. Again, you can sales expectancies, you expect the orders, right? You can plug in prices, you can tell everyone buys, you can handle any objection if you want, type of thing. And let's get to the next part then, all right? So again, the key to the funnel is, again, to choose what you're passionate for and make sure to show the customer, right, that you're passionate about it. All right, so the papers, pull out the papers. Pull out the papers. So these papers have, like, different, like, this is kind of like how, excuse the grammar, right? I'm not the best at English, I guess you can say. I typed it really quickly. I should have, like, proofread it or something. But this is, like, really easy verbiage. If, like, for example, if your goal is to win a scholarship, or, like, if you ever want to describe the scholarship, like, for me was, all right, branch manager. In order for me to get branch manager, I need to get into AGL school. So AGL school and branch, everything's here. So if you want to go to the black page where you see branch manager. So for me, when I was describing branch manager and how it was to get people really excited and like, wow, this is actually pretty sick, right? I talked about this. It says the company has the greatest entrepreneurial internship program that is the perfect resume booster. The Wall Street Journal has written 2 articles about why all the top companies out there love hiring kids that work for Cutco. The #1 reason was the skills obtained and the experience gained from the company. Right, the top people from that AGL school, right, I was telling you about, are given $9,000 to go out and open up their own Cutco branch for a summer. In the summer, it would be my job to go out, hire receptionists, run a receptionist program, and all the while start hiring and training all the applicants in the area. Can you imagine me, 20 years old, with my name at the front door? Talk about the perfect resume. To say I was running my own business at 18, 19, 20, however you are, is the best way to land my dream job. So that's kind of how I would like describe it. They're like, wow, that's actually really cool, right? So it gets them excited because I was excited about it, right? Then when I talk about AGL school, right, I was like, yeah, so I need to get into AGL school first. In order for me to get into AGL school, I need to like sell whatever. Might as well get to that later. So when I talked about AGL school, I was like, hey, so the company has this management training program that only the elite performers this summer get accepted to. So you guys are, for those of you guys, who here is not in AGL? Who's not in AGL? 1, 2, 3. So you guys are really like in the perfect time because now you have all summer to you know, to get on Jeff's radar. So you can start tying your customers earlier on. Have bigger sales goals. Personally, if you're in this room right now and your goal for the summer is not $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, I don't know why you're in this room in the first place, right? Those are very easy sales numbers to hit, especially if you start so early and you start sharing your goals with your customers. You have no idea how many times I've done like in push periods. Where, you know, people, someone, like, for example, the Cabo push we just had, we just won a free trip to Cabo San Lucas, right? The last day, I was like $200 away. It was like 11 o'clock at night. The whole day I've been texting my customers like, oh, I'm only this far away, I'm only this far. I was actually texting someone that didn't buy the first time around. She didn't buy it during my Cabo push. And she called me like 11:30. She was like, hey, did you hit it? I'm like, no, I'm only $200 away. She was like, well, that cheese knife was pretty cool. You know, I do have a couple like birthdays coming up. I'll buy 4 to help you win. Right? Boom. I bought 4 and I win. Guys, you have no idea, like, by tying your customers into your goals, how much more they want to help you. Some people will literally bend over backwards to help you out. Right? I truly believe the world is a good place and people naturally want to help out. Right? So it could be the difference between a no sale and a small sale. Right? You know, like a homemaker to a signature set, signature to a complete set, so on. It could be the difference between no recommendations and 5 recommendations. 5 recommendations, 15, 15, 30, 100, so on. Right? So when I talk about AGL school, so they call it AGL school. AGL stands for Aggressive Growth and Leadership School. It's pretty much like an MBA program condensed into 8 months that they offer for free. It's an amazing resume booster, right? And they give me a certificate and everything. In those 8 months, they'll teach me everything I need to know to be successful out in the world. They teach me advanced sales skills, right? Management skills, whether it's managing a business, clients, or myself. Right? They have a lot of life coaching and personal growth. They teach public speaking, recruiting, and they even teach you how to train others in sales. They teach you how to drive your business to increase earnings. They teach you how to start up a company and network. Pretty much, they teach me everything I need to know to run a business. And the only way to get accepted is through the approval of my divisional manager, Mr. Jeff Gamboa, who runs the Florida Caribbean division. Right? For me, the best way to get on his radar, and I know who Oh, for me, the best way to get on his radar and for him to know who I am, I have to sell 10K in this push, All-American Scholarship winner, 10K fast start, whatever it may be. So that's kind of how I would describe that. So you guys can use that. And then the scholarship. When I talk about the scholarship, I let them know that this isn't the main goal. Like, I don't necessarily care about the scholarship money, right? But of the stature that can give me in the eyes of Jeff Gamboa. So the company has a scholarship program where if I can sell enough and do enough appointments, they help pay for my school to help graduate debt-free. It's a huge honor and something I'm working really hard for. They take the top 50 representatives in the company and they give them money towards their education. My picture would go in the brochure, but most importantly, I would be able to put on my resume that I won a scholarship from a $250 million national marketing firm when they only give out to the top 50 out of 40,000 students working in the company. That is why this summer I'm planning to sell blank amount of Cutco. I think everyone should promote $50,000 or $30,000. I think everyone here in this room can easily do it if you just put the work in and you start tying your customers into your goals and you get your skills down. Right? So this is like a really easy handout. And so wrapping up. So for example, let's say you go, my goal is to do, like rule the world. In order for that, I need to become a branch manager. In order for a branch manager is blank. In order for me to become a branch manager, right, I need to get into AGL school. That's how Cutco can help me out, get into AGL school. AGL school, boom, talk about AGL school. In order for me to get into AGL school, I need to get on Jeff Gamboa's radar. He's my division manager. I need to really impress him. So for me, the best way for me to impress him is going to be to win the All-American Scholarship race. The All-American Scholarship is blank, 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 right? So this is kind of where I start wrapping up, guys, and this is like now when we close off tying your customers into your goals and start getting more into the actual presentation. So Mrs. Jones, as you can see, I have big goals ahead of me, and my goal, like I said, is to sell $50,000 this summer, right? By next week, or for example, or $5,000 by next week, or $5,000 this week, or $4,000 by Monday. I always pick a big number, guys. You ever heard the saying, you reach for the sky, maybe you grab an apple, but if you reach for the stars, maybe you land on the moon type of thing. The higher your goals are, you'll realize that like you'll sell more because you're gonna start believing yourself. Like, it's like the big lie theory. The more you tell yourself the bigger the lie, the more you believe it type of thing. And I used to like start these ridiculous numbers like, yeah, Mrs. Jones, my goal is to sell $10,000 this week, and all of a sudden I'd be selling $7,000 a week, and I was like, holy shit, this works. Like you start believing. Like, the minute you believe you're a badass, like that's when you become a badass. That's one of the number one tips I can give you guys. Like, really truly believe you can do it, right? But like, I think you're the shit. And once you think you're the shit, that you start acting like the shit to Mrs. Jones, that's when like she'll start buying a lot more because like they respect your confidence and they feel like you've done this all the time, right? Like, I've had customers be like, oh, I'll just go ahead and just buy that one that everyone else gets, a complete set. I'm like, okay, good. You think I sell a complete set on every single one of my appointments? No, but like, I'll just go ahead and get the one that everyone else gets. I'm like, the complete set. I'm like, all right, cool. I kind of act like that, So a big number of the best. So let's say I'm like, okay, so my goal is to sell $5,000 by Monday. So if you can go ahead and just give me $5,000, that'd be great. Make my job so much easier. High five. And I'll go ahead and put a high five. 9 times out of 10, they're like, no, I'm not gonna get $5,000 from you, right? And I'm like, we'll find something you love, right? I'll kind of joke around that. But I always do the high five thing, and they're like, and then I'll be like, hey, all kidding aside, Mrs. Jones, all kidding aside, thank you so much for seeing me today. This means the world to me. I don't know if you were ever so passionate about a goal that it kept you up at night and you woke up the very next morning before the alarm clock, but that's how I feel about my goals. So I'm extremely appreciative that you let me come by. I promise I will change your life today. So like I said in the phone, you don't have to get anything today if you don't like the product. You'll have to say no because the stuff is way too expensive for you to buy just to be nice. But, right, I want you to make me a promise. I urge you to keep an open mind because this product is great. Your friend Susie loved them, and I know you will too. So, if you see something you like, promise me that you get it today and not next month. Because next month, it won't help me for my goals. Only today. Plus, today is the day that I can give you the best deals and specials, right? Also, the best way to help me out, Mrs. Jones, right, is the automatic sponsorship. It's a free way of helping me out. And I'll flip I'm just in the front of the book showing the brochure and all that, and I'll flip to the automatic sponsorship. And I'm like, hey, didn't just explain the automatic sponsorship the way you would when I get 50 sponsors, $150, pay for my school books, in order to become a sponsor. Right, you need to give me 10 names, you so on, or whatever, so you do that. So if at the end of the presentation, you like me, you like the product, recommend me to everyone you know. So Mrs. Jones, at the end of the presentation, expect me to ask you to buy everything, and expect me to ask you to empty out your whole entire phone book. Are you ready for me to change your life? They're like, hell yeah, like high five. Let's start shopping, all right? And then I always say let's start shopping because I want to create that buying atmosphere. I want them to know that like, hey, and again, you stress like, hey, you don't have to get anything like I don't want to, but buy type of thing, you know? And then yeah, no, sure. Yeah, sure. So go ahead and that. So guys, that's kind of like what I had for you guys. I had a couple cool things in my head, but like it kind of escaped as I was talking. So any questions, guys? Any questions you guys have for me? Anything you want me to say? So Mike.
So you wouldn't imagine it being too like forward or presumptuous if like a person like a week before they told you, oh, I already just did my time teaching, I got a whole bunch of new stuff and everything. And it seems like you book the appointment based upon the idea that, oh, they don't have to get anything.
Well, on the phone, I guess, because on the phone I always mention like they're like, oh, I just bought everything for the kitchen. It's like, hey, no worries, right? Don't worry, I get paid just to do this, or I get credit for my scholarship just for doing this. Susie just absolutely loved the product. She bought it, and she said you'd love it too. So I'm gonna show it to you. You can definitely check it out. If you don't like it, it's okay. I get credit just for doing it. I like that conversation on the phone. But when I get to the house, I'll remind them like, hey, like, just like I said now, hey. Like I said on the phone, if you don't like the product, don't be afraid to tell me no. But I know this stuff is awesome. It's way better than what you have, right? And then, but you can't be afraid to say that, right? Because what did I say? You didn't have confidence in your product, and you know it's the best. Well, how many more questions? 1, 2. Isa, I know you.
That was fast, by the way. How would you implement the second report on a certain step?
Well, it's the same thing. Just like how Andy did it, you know, she walks, like you do it while you're sharpening the knives, but while you're showing them everything, because you want to get to the service first, and like while you're sharpening, you have so much time, especially if you have like a bigger set. So while you're showing them the bristles and like showing them how when you actually sharpen it, like what the difference it does when you sharpen it, and you're showing them everything, that's when you kind of like tie your customers in your goals while you're doing it. Or if you don't have time to do that while you're doing that, just when you start the presentation, like real quick, is it okay if I share with you my goals? They're like, sure, and then you can do that too. One last question, then we gotta go.
When you ask your customers if it's okay to ask to share your goals, they say no. What do you say?
Be like, hey, cool. No worries. Just don't do this for a scholarship, and that if you buy the house a lot. No, it's not just like.
My answer to that is, you know, if you run into that and genuinely like, no, just a crummy person.
Yeah.
You know. But if you're getting that often, it's something you might be setting up.
Yeah. Then for me, just be like, hey, cool, no worries. Just know I'm working for a scholarship for school, and that's it. Just starting. But they'll appreciate you more for actually asking. That they'll like this guy actually cares, as opposed to trying to drown my ear out. So. Other than that,
yeah, we give Mario a round of applause. Thank you, Mario. So far so good. So far so awesome.
Yes.
Okay. We're gonna wrap up with our 2 speakers. We're gonna wrap up with closing, and then Lamarck's gonna bring us home with the phone. Here's what I will say: a lot of these techniques you're hearing, some of these things will drive with you. Some of them a little over your head. Just take the ones that will give you the most immediate impact. Is what I'm saying. Okay. So, for example, the round behind the back, through the legs, super underneath the rim layup. For some of you just need to put some points up on the board. So let's just get a layup, right? Some of you need to know. Yeah. Okay, you guys get that point. So, without further ado, I'm gonna bring Kathy up because Kathy's gonna talk about closing, and they're all important. I think the thing that will elevate your business is when you think that closing isn't the most important thing. It's a multifaceted business, is it not? Right? You have to get recommendations, you have to learn phone calls, you have to learn how to tie people in, and of course closing is one very important aspect, otherwise you don't make the sale. We all know Kathy's accolades as an assistant division manager supporting me. We all know that Kathy is a perennial Silver Cup champion. Every time I come into this office, I look at not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 and multiple Silver Cups, not just from this office. I know I haven't seen 4 here. I know. So. But I'm thinking of all the Silver Cups that have come through the lineage and the legacy of the Miami Sharpie organization, all under the leadership of this amazing woman who I have the privilege of working with side by side to help build FC. Since 2010, Kathy's been side by side as a friend, as a business partner, and really the most dynamic, most prolific district manager since 2007 and 8. Just no one has done a better job of running a Cutco office. So without further ado, I know there's a lot she wants to teach you about closing. I give to you Ms. Kathy Vasquez.
So, I'm going to go, and it's going to be rapid fire as I walk through with you guys, just to be able to add value, but also be able to have our other messages that we have today that I think are absolutely killer. I think everyone's done a really great job. I've actually been listening live stream from the other room. I've had it on over there, so I've been listening. Awesome job, Mario. I know Andy brought the fire earlier today, so I'm excited. I wanted to speak about closing because I know for myself when I first started off, this was when the things switched really. I saw my business boom on another level, and it took, for me, it was going to going field training and then going to SC1 where the flip really switched for me, that I was like, oh man. And there was so much area of opportunity in my business, and I just think about if I was out there selling, just always looking to get better and better. And I don't care if you're someone who just started in the last couple weeks, you're an FSM, you're a senior field sales manager, someone who's at $400,000, $500,000, $1 million in sales. There's always parts of your business you can improve on. There's always things you can get better with closing. You know, if you're not closing on Cutco Kitchens every single time, there's room for improvement in that. So I think about there's three main things when it comes to really closing big. And the first thing we talk about all the time is just belief, mentality, and expectation. And I think about for yourself, do you really believe that when you're seeing Cutco customers, they should be buying $4, $5, $6, $7 grand or more from you, like every time? And especially, you know, I look at some of the areas you guys are in, you know, for anyone who works full time and has a home, you know, like a homemaker set, and you guys know, Mario, can you get me the payment sheet, like give me a stack of them from in there, like the price breakdown? But for you guys, for somebody if somebody's buying a homemaker set, you know, you guys all know $11.39 the deposit today, depending on the tax in your area, you know, $245. We're looking at about $61 per week, okay? And with a husband and wife together, we're looking at $30 each. And when you look at that, do you, and this is important, those of you who are managers and assistant managers, I need a stack of them. Do your actual reps that you're coaching and managing, do they really believe, first of all, that anybody who works full-time could own a homemaker? Because if they're married and they work full-time, there's no reason they couldn't get that. You guys have friends that spend $60 a week on random crap, going out and drinking, partying, you know, too much milk, random recreational drugs, and people spend money on random stupidity. And it's true. This is not an opinion. This is a fact. So do you really believe that? Because for me, like when someone calls in and says, oh, my customer couldn't afford this, I'm like, and part of me thinks in my head, well, do you really believe they couldn't afford it? Because I know that's bull crap, and I never called my manager and said my customer couldn't afford it. If I ever heard a person say that, my response was, oh, well, they didn't want it, or I didn't do a good job building excitement for it, or you know, whatever it is, or maybe they had some other things and I just didn't find what they were comfortable with. Because the fact is, the only reason someone can't afford anything today is what? They lost their job. It's the only reason someone could not afford Cutco. So, you know, is that in your head, you know, like, what is stopping? Because that can be a roadblock for you guys getting sales. And I remember at different times of my career and just seeing representatives that I've coached to over a decade, and I started selling Cutco 12 years ago as a sales representative, and just seeing that when you know, do you really believe every single person you see should get something and should get everything? Because that's where you have those bigger orders. So where's your confidence? Where's your belief system? To me, a married couple in an apartment can get a homemaker easily. Okay? They just need to be smart, not spending stupid money at Walmart. When they make a list to go to groceries, sticking to the list, not overspending when they go out to eat at Chili's or whatever once a month. You know, it's just like cutting back a little bit here or there, and they can get that done. And if they don't want to do all that today, well, that's different. So it's not they can't afford it. It's just they didn't want to do all of that today. Fine. Our job is to help them find what's best for them today. But do you know what the best value is for your customers? Do you guys know what things really cost out there? If you guys go out and you're getting top of the line kitchen stuff, top of the line, and you're looking at things like this is something that I was looking at earlier, and I love like Sub-Zero and all the refrigerators, and you can customize all the things. Sub-Zero fridges are the top refrigerators, and I'm looking at this fridge and I'm like, this is gorgeous. This fridge with the cabinets and the Sub-Zero. $16,000 for this refrigerator freezer they have. And there's all different prices, but it's like we're talking the best. Like people, when they're buying the best of things for their house, you're talking money. And you're talking lots of money, you know? And so not forgetting that, because I think sometimes as you get into the rim of things, I don't know if you forgot or if you haven't looked at things, you know, this right here, a double, this is a Wolf, again, top of the line, Sub-Zero and Wolf stuff. This is a dual double oven, okay? $6,000 for that. So again, that's going to be in there, and you could spend more, you could spend less, but this is going to something when people make this purchase, it's not just a purchase, it's an investment into their home. And when people are buying Cutco, this is stuff they're going to have 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now, or passed down to kids or grandkids. So not forgetting that, and I think that's something important that we share, and we've really been hitting hard in training with our newer reps, is just like, this is not just a random purchase, it's an investment long term. So not forgetting that. And again, in the end, they're going to get whatever they're most comfortable with today. They're going to get whatever they feel is best for them. But a lot of it, when you build the right connections, a lot of it depends on you and really your belief in what they should get and your recommendations to them, which we'll talk about. Then you have like Snap-on tools. I talk about this in my training all the time. But if you guys go on, this has no tools in it. This is just the holding unit. And any mechanic knows this. And if you're getting a rolling cabinet, and by the way, this is just about 4 feet by 3 feet by about a foot deep for this rolling cabinet, you're looking, the price of this is $2,600 just for the cabinet with no tools. By the way, any mechanic knows this. Any mechanic knows this. And once you have the tools in there, you're talking a lot more. So I think it's really important because I was just really scared when I first, and even in my first summer, I didn't start dropping 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 grand plus orders until I was really, this really couldn't. It's like people spend this for their home. And that's why also we target Mac customers, right? That's why it's important we're qualifying our recommendations. And there's going to be a lot of just awesome workshops we're going to have in these next couple weeks with the Alliance in the mornings. Just getting better and better and better with your skill sets. But, there's little things that make a very big difference in this business. And I just think about, your mentality and how you go into it. This is one of the biggest things. So if you go to buy a set of knives and flatware and pots and pans, whether you're on Cutlery and More, Williams-Sonoma, whatever it is, and you're looking at a package deal and somebody wants to get, this isn't even like our whole set, but this is on sale for $1,500. You're looking at something, you guys have this in your price comparison for the Shun for a 19-piece set. Well, the Kaji is $4,000 on sale for $2,800. This is the Shun Classic, which is a grade down, and it would be like a complete set, okay? And this is $5,343 on sale for $3,500. So right there, I'm at $5,000, and then each 5-piece stainless setting, one of the stainless settings that I saw on Williams-Sonoma, one that my girlfriend was going to get for her wedding. She had it on her wedding registry, but instead I got her Cutco flatware, which she is like obsessed with, and just so happy. I went to her house 2 weeks ago for her birthday party, and she's like, this was like the best gift ever. She's like, it's one of our favorite wedding gifts, was a flatware that I had gotten them, the stainless flatware. And I said, hey, you could buy that flatware, but the fact is, they might be discontinued 10 years from now. If you have to replace a fork, you have to replace something, you're not going to find it. And if something happens to it, let's say it's in the disposal, and you press the disposal and it mangles it up, it's not replaced for free forever. Or with Cutco, it is. I was like, it's the smartest thing to purchase. And so you look at that, and that's about the same as you're going to pay for a 4-piece, a 5-piece, setting of ours that's guaranteed forever. And so you can multiply that by however many settings they want. But if I'm going to the store and I'm buying things that I'm going to replace that's not even the best, if I'm just buying those 3 things right there, my flatware for my kitchen, my pots and pans, and I want good knives to cook with, I'm looking right now if I'm going to spend 5 to 7 grand in a store, which is stuff that I will replace 10 plus years from now. And that's the thing. This is great stuff. And when you're looking at Shun, you're looking at Wusthof, Henkel's. It is the best stuff that you're going to get in a store, but you will replace it. You guys understand this, right? Your Shun Classic. The Shun Kaji have some sharpening. Some of them have some sharpening, but those are the ones that, again, are at the highest, which most of your everyday customers aren't purchasing those at the store. If they buy Shun, it's usually the Classic or the lower grade, and even any grade of, Williams, Wusthof or Henkel's, you're going to be replacing those. So my second point to closing big is rapport, because when you gain trust, you really gain bigger sales. You heard about this earlier today, right? As Andy was talking about with his service calls, and it's like you build such a connection with people that you're able to say everything, right? He was talking about the block. He's like, who did that to you? And it's like you're connecting with your customers in a way that you're able to say whatever it is you want. You're able to suggest whatever you want. Mario did a great job talking about sharing goals with people. Guys, the more you tie them into you and the more they trust you, in the end, you can recommend things. In the end, when they're in between those two sets and they don't know which one to get, or they want to wait till later, you can say, hey, can I just level with you? Be like, most of my customers that end up getting the smaller set end up upgrading anyway, and they end up spending more money doing it, and they always tell me, I wish I would have just done it all at one time. So if you're even considering it, and the deposit of whatever it is, $556 or whatever, is something that you feel comfortable doing today, even though it might be a little bit tighter, if it's something you can squeeze in, I'd say just knock it out of the way. I said it's totally up to you. I want to make sure you get whatever you're happy with. But I'm just letting you know, if you're between them, every single customer I've ever seen that wanted to get the complete ends up upgrading, and they're always like, yeah, I should have just gotten in the beginning. And they're like, you know what, you're right, let's just do it. And how many times did I have customers that did that and said, you know what, that's true. All right, you know what, yeah, I do want it, so let's just get it. And then sometimes there's the ones that are like, you know what, let's just start with the smaller, and then we'll upgrade. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, I just want to make sure you get whatever you're comfortable with today. I said, I want to make sure you always know your best values and make sure that you know your best skills, and then you make that final decision on what you feel is best for you today. But are you gaining that trust with your customers? So, first on the phone. Lamar's going to talk right after me on phone skills, but the rapport, and I didn't get to hear Mario's entire message, but that's something that's not just when you get there, but it starts on the phone with how you connect with them, right? So are they feeling comfortable? Are they excited to see you? Are they already connecting with you on the phone? Because that makes a big difference in how they receive you and how much they want to help you, okay? Then when you get there, your arrival to the demo, Mario talks about that, but just when you're walking in, and just things that you even see in their house, like, oh, wow, you guys fish, or oh, my gosh, and just connecting with them, right, finding things to talk about right off the bat, whether it's collector's items, find something that you actually like so you can talk about it. You don't want to say, oh, my God, that's it, and they're like, oh, you love whatever, and you're like, oh, crap, I don't know anything about this, and you just dug yourself in a hole that you can't even talk about it. So if you don't know about the kind of dog they have, don't worry. You can just say, oh, it's so cute, whatever. But don't call them, and then they start asking you a bunch of different things, and you can't even back it up. So find something legit in their house that you do that you can really connect with, whatever that is. Because all these things, guys, they tie in together. Rapport is one of the biggest parts of your business. That from the phone will get you that demo. That from the beginning will help you connect in a way that they want to get you tons of recommendations, that they want to buy bigger, that they trust you to buy bigger today, and that, again, they want to help you build your business. They keep coming back to you. They call you, like Mario was saying, and did you hit your goal yet? Because they want to make sure you got there because they were so tied into you. So are you really building this the right way? So I put that, sharing goals, tying them in. Don't be lame. Even last Thursday, I had all of our key staff do the beginning part and share their goals. And honestly, if I had to rate on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 4. All right? And it's just, I'm like, these are our best sales reps. And how are we, besides our FSM team who's been here longer, but are you really tying your customers in? Do you know why you're working? Do you know what you want to get out of this? Do you really take the time to share that with your customers? Because I've even heard reps before say, oh, I feel bad taking their time, or I feel bad sharing my goals. I'm like, what? I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you even doing the demo? The night part takes about 15, 20 minutes, okay? The rest of it's just building a relationship with people that trust you enough to redo their kitchen with you and keep coming back and keep buying from you. So that's really important. Do you have those testimonials? You guys saw, like, Andy, it's just like proof, 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 proof. By showing what other people have done, what other people have purchased, by showing their experiences, whether they're handwritten testimonials or their videos that you guys show them, or a combination of both, which I think is really powerful, they're able, that right there, guys, they do the sales pitch for you. It is so easy to go see Miss Jones' friends, and she's had a complete set for 7, 8, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, or own whatever Cutco, and she's like, oh my God, I own these knives, they're the best, yada, 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 and she's doing the pitch for you. And they're like, oh, wow, I had no idea. I'm like, yeah. I remember going to see, I was like trying to build my base over in Sarasota when I had moved out there, and I was running my office out there, and I'd put a post up and found somebody that had a friend that, was from Sarasota that went to my college on the East Coast, and they're like, oh, yeah, my parents would be willing to help you out. I'm like, that'd be awesome. And so they got me a demo. I just said, hey, if anyone who lives in Sarasota or Bradenton, anyone's parents would be willing to help me. I get paid to do a quick appointment. There's no obligation, just trying to build my base. Just, I'm going to be new to the area. And so I had gotten a demo with the parents, And I remember they bought like, I don't know, it was like less than a $200 order, like 160, 180 order or something like that. But I got over 20 recommendations. I got a double sponsor, and most of them in their neighborhood. I said, hey, do you guys know anyone in the neighborhood? And they, actually, I'm lying. They gave me like 5 or 7 from the neighborhood. The rest were from their church. They're the ones from the neighborhood, and I loved the neighborhood. It was like a perfect middle upper income neighborhood. No gates. It wasn't gated, but it was just like a perfect middle upper income neighborhood. And I just remember sitting down with them, and I said, yeah, who do you know? She's like, oh, well, Dan and Lori. Like, Lori knows a lot of the guys from the neighborhood. These people also, the Abdallahs, they're pretty close to a lot of people in the neighborhood. So definitely those are great people in the neighborhood. These guys are from our church, whatever. I qualified my rocks. And so then I end up going seeing Ben Abdallah. Ben sold Cutco back in the 60s, and I have a testimonial in my book from him. He's like, I sold Cutco back in 1960, whatever, and he like tells his whole little story. But I remember walking into his house, and he had Henkel's on his counter. I'm like, what is that? When he told me, like, when we walked into his kitchen, when we were talking, he's like, oh my God, he saw my book. He's like, no way, you're showing Cutco? I'm like, yeah, you've heard of it? He's like, huh. He's like, have I heard of it? He's like, I sold Cutco in the 60s, you know, and he's like telling me all this. I said, that's so cool. We like turned the corner, and I was like, what? I'm like, are you serious? You just telling me you sold Cutco and you have that? And he was like, well, I was young, you know, I didn't realize. And then I just forgot later. He's like, honestly, he's like, I didn't even think about it for years after. He's like, we got those when we got married. And I'm like really offended right now. I'm like, I can't believe that you sold Cutco. And I'm like, we're going to change that today. You know, and like we had a great time. And I got a testimony from them. I sold them a kitchen system. I got a $1,400 order with them. I got great recommendations, but it was just so easy to have that testimonial because when I went and I saw Dan and Lori, I'm like, oh, did you guys know Ben sold Cutco back in? And they're like, oh, no way. And like, that's so awesome. And like, we had a great time, and they ended up buying a complete set for me, right? And then I asked Dan and Lori, I said, hey, do you guys have, do you know people from the neighborhood? I'm like, when I was talking to the Tunnels, they said that you guys were pretty connected. And Lori's like, actually, I'm the head of the neighborhood. And I'm like, oh, awesome. And she's like, yeah, I know everyone here in East Lake community. I'm like, beautiful. So she gives me like 30-something racks, which almost every single one was from East Lake. And she's like, oh, yeah, all these families, all this whatever. And I'm like, hell yeah. So she gives me all these people. And then it was just cakewalk, guys. I sold $15,000 in 2 days, by the way, in that neighborhood. And I literally had demos back to back to back, like around the neighborhood for 2 days straight. I had 5 to 7 demos a day in this neighborhood. And it was so easy because I'm like, hey, do you want the set Dan and Lori have? I said, or do you guys want Ben's set? I'm like, which one works better? And back then we only had those 2 options. And it was just like, I'll just get the one Ben got. Oh, let me get the one Lori got. And it was like complete set, kitchen system, complete set. The other one's like, oh no, I'm gonna do something. I'm like, oh, okay. And it was like really weird if they didn't do one of those sets. And I sold them a galley or a starter or whatever. But it was the easiest $15,000 I ever sold in my life. Those 2 days, and it was just from you know, building rapport, building the connection, getting the right leads, and then it's just from the testimonials, and then seeing that everybody else had it for this long, and even Lori and Dan, who bought the complete set, she goes, my friend, and I have it in my book too, she wrote a testimonial saying that her friend had bought Cutco like 16 years ago, and at that time she thought they were too expensive and she didn't buy, and she wishes she would have bought it back then. And today she bought a whole set, thanks Kathy, la la la. But you know, that was like, it was just so easy. I didn't have to do anything. When I saw everybody, I'm like, oh yeah, here's Ben, he sold Cutco. Hey, here's Lori, she wishes she bought Cutco 16 years ago when her friend did. What do you want to do? You know, and it was just like so easy. So are you guys really maximizing that? Because I'm telling you, that's a little thing that can make a very, very large impact in your sales and when you're closing, because it's just credibility, you know? I think about why might people not invest in Cutco. They're hesitant. They're not sure, should I make this investment, when all their friends are like, it's the best investment I ever made. Is that going to help with your sale? Of course it is, all right? So that's really important not to forget that. Are you showing them that we make everything that for the kitchen? We make everything. If you don't have this page, and do you have your blue book with you? So you know the if you don't have this in your book, this is something that your managers can order for you. But showing your customers, and I know we put it into his here, but do you have this where you can show your customers, hey, we make everything for the kitchen. We have flatware, we have pots and pans, we make all kitchen gadgets, and we have knife sets. All right. And I'm gonna walk you guys through like when you're showing this, but is this something that they know before you start names and uses? So when you finish your guarantee, and I'm like, hey, and I'm gonna now talk to them about it before I dive into showing them the different tools and everything we make after the guarantee. I'm like, hey, just so you know, we do make everything for the kitchen. I will show you everything real quick. Be like, I'm going to focus mainly on the knives just because that's usually people's first investment into the kitchen. If there's, if you wanted to knock it out all at one time, there's definitely amazing packages and bundles. So I'll just show you everything so you know your options, okay? But we've got 3 main family sets. We've got our basic set for people that don't cook at all. We've got our medium set for people that do a decent amount of cooking. And we have our complete set for people who love to cook, love to entertain, have large families, or just love to have the best. All right, and so making sure that you're presenting that so they know that everything is available to them. All right, when you're presenting the sets, how do you talk about the sets? And we're gonna go through this together, but that's really important how they're presented and what kind of expectation is set, because just how you present it can make a very big difference in how your customer is feeling. So I used to give a lot of talks. I used to average about an ultimate a week when I was a sales rep, and I used to give a lot of talks on selling homemakers and ultimates, which back then is what we had. And they had me always, and I always sold kitchen systems and ultimates. They'd be like, oh, how do you sell so many? I'm like, I honestly, I remember being on with Andy Janti on our FSM Elite back then, which was like the closest to the CSP team that we have now. But they were like the top full-time sellers or student sellers. And I remember being on calls and speaking at conferences about this, and I said, I honestly believe that if anybody owns a home, they need to have at least a homemaker, like at least. I was like, it covers your, I had it in my apartment in college. I'm like, it's 7 knives, 2 forks, and a spatula. Like, I don't understand how you could do without that. You're going to have that forever. Not that they're going to use every single piece every single day, but I just don't, like, what are you using to carve your turkey? What are you doing to do your small, like, they each have such a specific, you use them a lot. And they all have specific uses. And so I'd say to you, do you really know how to use your tools? Do you really know what they're used for? Because that right there will help elevate your business. And so, and then the last thing is just the enthusiasm as you're going through here. So do your customers really feel, as you're talking about things like that they should own this, that they should invest in it? We're talking about that, but just like as you're presenting it. So, can I have my what time signal so I know, because I'm going to dive in and show.
Okay, I'll get to it in the
Okay, 10, 15 minutes. I don't know, I can be done sooner, I can be done later. So as when you guys dive in, so I think about, and those who have listened to me give closing talks before, I think it's so important once you have finished going through the guarantee pay, if not earlier as you were building rapport, do you know who you're talking to? Do you know there's someone that like loves to cook, cooks all the freaking time? Are they someone who cooks because they like to or because they have to? Is it a mix of both? Like, that's important to know. So sometimes you're talking about that in the beginning when you're chatting with them and you're like, yeah, so how did you know Julie? Be like, are you a crazy cook like her? And they're like, oh, no. Or, oh, yeah, oh, my God, I love cooking. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I know I'm closing them on a complete set. That's their response. But when I'm talking to them, I want to know who it is that I'm in front of. Who am I showing cocktail to? Because I'm going to adjust my names and uses based on this. And some of you guys have heard this before, and some of you guys, this will be new to you, but if you go watch me, do demos, my names and uses are different almost every single time because it depends on who I'm talking to. And I guess it'd be a different type of person. So if there are people that love to cook, they're a certain way. If there are people that cook kind of in the middle, they're a certain way. If there are people that do not cook at all or cook just because they need to, or like frozen food people, like my names and uses are totally different. And I like to have a lot of fun with them as I'm going through it. So your basic set, I'm like, if you don't cook at all, I said, here's the deal. I said, our complete set is gorgeous. I said, and if you just love to have the best, I strongly recommend it. You have a gorgeous home. And so even if someone doesn't cook at all, I'm going to 100% focus on the aesthetic appeal of the complete set and owning the best. I can see you have a gorgeous home. Obviously, you like to have the best of things. This is our top of the line. I'll show you everything that's in it. If you don't cook a lot, you're probably not going to use, you're not going to use all the knives every day. I said, but it's for a lifetime. So it's a lifetime investment. You'll always have anything you ever need. So if you have parties, you have people over, anything that they need, that's something that you'll never, it's better to have it have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. And so you're set for life. And they're like, oh, okay. And guys, people that have money that don't cook spend money all the time on random crap. On $300 to $500 blouses, on $1,000, $2,000 plus purses, on shoes that cost several $100s, and it's not like they just have one pair of couple $100 shoes. They have lots of pairs of $100 shoes. They have lots of very expensive bags. They have lots of very expensive clothes. And so I want to make sure you know that if you're not aware of that. And they buy things because it looks nice. And this is something different where, by the way, with everything else, every time they go to the store, like, ooh, that's pretty, and they're spending hundreds and thousands of dollars all the time, all right? And these are your like upper income that don't cook. And I'm going to close those guys all the time on bigger sets just because it looks nice. But there's a different approach you have to take from the beginning. Because if you start it from a cooking aspect, you're not going to sell anything because they don't use it. They don't cook ever. They go out to eat all the time, and they have someone that cooks for them. So you've got to approach it differently, where when you come into it, it's about owning the best. It's about the aesthetics. And say, hey, if you don't really cook at all, I said, looking at your home, honestly, I said, as your kitchen consultant, I was like, I would recommend having the complete set just because, one, it looks gorgeous. I'm like, I'm assuming you throw parties and stuff here, and they're like, oh yeah, we have people. I'm like, this just looks like the house people come over to for like different occasions, and they're like, oh, and people like that. They like having people over. They like decorating the house so that it looks nice when people come over. So you're coming from that angle, you know, and worst case scenario, and those, I don't know that at this point in my career and in the last 4 years since the Signature came out that I wouldn't sell them at least a Signature. I'm like, even if you don't cook at all, I said our basic set is like, if you don't cook at all, I said, but because you throw parties and stuff, the medium set has the scissors, which you're going to use the heck out of, has a cheese knife that you're going to use the heck out of. I'm like, and then when you have like party platters and things, the thicker knife and for barbecues is just so nice to have. You do things so much quicker in the kitchen, anything that you did have to do. And your small chopper, I mean, you'll use that for like herbs and stuff. I was like, it'll just make you cook more. I'm like, you'll feel all like healthy, you know, making chopping up your own fresh stuff, herbs and things. So anyway, that I'd sell them at this point when we didn't have the Signature back then. At least a Signature set. But as you're going through your uses, like I said, so rewind. One, I think it's really good, and especially when you guys see people that cook, are you asking people what they used it for? Like if they really know how to use knives, and I'm like, fair enough, oh yeah, and they're using it in the air, you're like, oh yeah, do you guys ever do anything? They're like, yeah, I use this knife all the time. Ask them, what are other things you guys use it for? And like get more ideas for uses for when you see other people, you have more uses to give. Because when I'm showing, I'm like, hey, do you guys ever cut this or this or this or this? And you want to give as many uses as you need until you get a yes on that tool, right? You guys are all aware of this. Like your objective, if you want to close sets, is you got to get a yes on the tools, or at least on the set. So when you're presenting the sets, one thing I'd make sure is, for those of you probably in this room, it's probably split. I'd probably say half and half that actually have the homemaker set, and those who don't and have partial. You want to do whatever you can. Either buy it yourself, by the way, because I don't know if you guys know this, but you can buy samples on Cutco.com. You only get one of each, but one of the things you can do is buy the completion set for the rest of your homemaker. I would have the entire homemaker. I would have the cheese knife. You guys have the scissors. I would get a Petite Santoku and a Hardy slicer. Like you need at least everything that's in the Signature set, so you can close bigger. All right. So you can show these tools. So when you go to show the sets, you're like, hey, our basic set is 7 knives, 2 forks, and a spatula. You've got your air knife. Okay, cool, that's what you'd use. You have your small utilities. You guys ever cut limes or lemons or oranges or grapefruits? Trim it out. Okay, cool, that's what you'd use. Do you guys ever make sandwiches? Ever have any desserts? Ever have things in dishes? This thing's fantastic, yada, yada, yada. Hey, the next tool is your everyday carving and prep. Do you guys ever have any medium-sized fruits or veggies? Cool, that's what you'd use. These you can use together for small carving. This one you use it when you're turning. You've got your butcher, which is like, it's your protector of your basic set, but just like thinner bones, just joining, separating frozen hot dogs, hamburgers, if you have ribs and stuff that you're separating from the freezer. My mom buys, bags of chicken wings, put them in the freezer, separate what you need, put the rest back in there. Then you've got your chopper. I'm like, now this knife will make you want to cook more. I'm like, I never really know how to use it, but when you watch chefs on TV and they're just like going to town on it, you're like, yeah. I'm like, you're like, oh my gosh, how do they do that? I'm like, it's actually made to do that. I'm like, when you learn how to use it the right way, I'm like, so you feel like one of the chefs on TV. And so we're showing that. I'm like, check this out. And I'm always like, if you do not have a chef knife, you need a chef knife. That will help you sell more sets. When you're selling that chef knife. But they're going like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, isn't it so much nicer than using one knife to sit there and go like piece by piece by piece? I'm like, which a lot of people do, especially when they don't know how to cook, or they've never gotten like lessons on how to use your knives. There's no like knife school, unless you actually went to culinary school. No one's really taught how to use the different tools, And they're like, oh, that's true. I'm like, and then lastly, you have your bread knife and your master carving set, And so now the medium set also has those scissors that you love. It has our cheese knife, which you love, and other accessories, which Andy talked about earlier with you guys on how to actually explain those. Our complete set has the basic tools I showed you, plus it has our specialty knives. And that's something that you guys can show them, where you're just like, the complete has all the basic tools that I showed you here, okay? And then it has our specialty knives. And you can just fold this here and walk through what else it has that it's missing, all right? So making sure, how do you show it? Again, how do you frame it before you go to show it? Are you having fun with them? If someone doesn't cook, I always joke around with them. It just depends on the person. I'm like, oh, you know when you're making those brownies from scratch? And they look at me like, just kidding. I'm like, $3 box of brownies from Publix, put an egg, some water, some oil, throw it in the oven, take it out, cut, scoop, serve, once with a clean. And I just like, I'll like just joke around with them like, oh, you know when you're doing this from scratch, and you know when you like make that bread, and you make that dough to make your bread, and they're just like, I'm like, just kidding. Publix, Cuban bread, you know, pick it up, $1 something. I'm like, well, you can get nice thin slices, you know, like make really nice sandwiches, and we're just chatting about whatever it is. So I give instant uses for everything with that, and just kind of have fun with them, play around with them. Because the fact is, they're gonna, even if they don't cook, they're gonna use all those tools, you know. And that's something like knives aren't just for cooking; it's for cutting. And there's things that they still need to cut. And that was my first complete set. Was my dad's old boss. Donna, and I remember doing the demo for it. Some of you guys have heard me say this story, and I literally at the end went to close, and she's like, well, what's that one? And she keeps looking at the picture, because when I saw her, when you guys are new, usually you have the ultimate next to the homemaker, right? And so I was closing on the homemaker, and she's looking at this picture, and she's like, well, what's that? And I said, well, that's our complete set, Donna. You don't need all that. You don't even cook. She's like, oh, but what is it? And I'm like, well, it has all our basic tools and all our specialty knives, but like, you don't really cook, so that's not a good set for you, you know? And she goes, well, it's very pretty. And I was like, it's gorgeous set. She's like, well, I like nice things. And I was like, well, it's the nicest one we have. And she's like, well, she goes, well, how much is that? I said, yeah, but Donna, you don't even use it. And I was like, brand new. And she said, Kathy, what are knives for? I said, to cook. And she goes, no. She's like, knives are to cut. She's like, I'm going to order in my food, and I'm going to cut it with my pretty knives. And she's like, I want that. That's quote unquote Donna. That's what she said. She's like, I'm going to order in my food, and I'm going to cut it with my pretty knives. She's like, I want that set in the white. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, and I'm going to recommend you to some of my friends. They like nice things. Forget the cooking part, okay? They're pretty. They're the best. It looks nice. That's all you need to say. Do you want that one, or you want to just go with the small one? And they're going to buy stuff, you know? And I was just like, huh. And that's, by the way, that's not the majority. And she's upper income. Like, they're an upper income client. But many of you guys have upper income clients, all right? And if you're qualifying your recs and you're getting your recs, you're asking for those people. Like, who throws parties? Who loves nice things? Who could buy the whole book if they wanted to right now? If you're not qualifying your recs like that, guys, you're missing out on so many great potential sales. I want to know who loves to cook, who loves to shop, who likes nice things, who throws parties all the time. Those are just my favorite people to go see. And especially as you get busy, if you're rocking your push the right way, and you're getting, you know, 2 or 3 racks, 2 or 3 yeses from your list of recs each time, you're having them call the top 2 or 3 people. Those are the top 2 or 3 I want them to call for me, because those are automatic grand orders, you know, 90% of the, I don't know, like pretty much every time, like those people, like I'm gonna close these people very easily. All right, so making sure that you guys are presenting that the right way, and then when you go to closing, and this is going to be the last part of my message. So you've shown the stuff. This is actually something Brian put this together on his own, looking at one of mine, my old one, and I think this is, I like to close, actually, I had my Cutco kitchen thing right next to this, but when I went to close on which set they wanted, small, medium, and large, and he literally, Brian just copied this, and he looked at my old one and just copy and paste on you know, if you guys can Photoshop or whatever.
Yeah, on that I do whatever.
And so he put that there and put the small, medium, and large. And guys, you can play with this. Like, you can add the kitchen tools to it. Like, make your own sets. You know, if you look at Andy's book, he has like Cutco kitchen, all the stuff he's put together that he's just copy and pasted and played with. One of my old reps, he had made like the Outdoorman special, and he had like a homemaker with a hunting knife and a fishing knife and barbecue tools, and he like copy and pasted it. And so he had in his book, buy one of our specialized homemakers today and get free scissors. And the specialized homemaker was like the outdoorsman, the entertainer, celebrity something. He like made up names for them, but he's like, if someone is an outdoorsy person, these are things they'd probably like, so I'm gonna make a set for that person. If I have my homemaker, like that she stays home, maybe she gardens and stuff, like I'm gonna do one that has like the gardening tools and the pruners, and then with a basic homemaker set and a free gardening bag or whatever. So like he just made up these things and literally just copy and pasted them. So I encourage you guys, get creative. This is your business. And so he just had buy any of our specialized homemakers and get a free pair of scissors. And those were all $1,100 to $1,400 orders, that he had with it. So this is cool, small, medium, and large. And this is how I used to close. And I know Andy, a lot of his demos will close where we do like a triple close with our customers. And unless when we ask them after we show the sets, hey, by the way, just so I know, if you were looking to invest in a set of Cutco today, which set do you feel will work better for you long term, the small, medium, or large? And they're like, oh, blank. I'm like, all right, well, let's talk prices. And once I've shown them. So there's a lot of different styles. I'm not going to tell you exactly what your demo should look like. What mine, and just so you guys can see and you can talk to your managers, my demo went to the effect of I showed them, I went through, showed them my goals, everything, and I said, okay, so we've got our different family sets. We have our basic set, we have our complete set, and there's one in between. Cutco makes everything for the kitchen, by the way, as well as flatware, cookware, a bunch of different accessories, and I'll show you all that. I'm going to focus on the knives first just because that's usually people's first investment, and then I'll show you the rest real quick. And so I went through and did my regular demo with the knives. Once I finished showing the knives, I said, all right, we also have, as I mentioned, the cookware. We also have the specialty knives that can be purchased individually. And I basically just walked through this stuff, the table knives, steak knives, the flatware, the outdoor kitchen accessories, the outdoor products, our fishing knife, and then we also have different gift sets, which I'd have the gift card thing here, but I like at this point, and I'd say we have a bunch of different gift sets and gift cards that you can get to for like weddings and holidays. All right. Now, as far as prices, let's talk prices, and just so I know, if you were considering, let's go back to just a set today. Do you feel that long term? Small, medium, large, what do you feel would fit your guys' family best? And they're like, oh, probably this. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, well, have you looked at prices lately? Because most people haven't, most people look at it when you're getting married, put it on the wedding registry, you get most of the stuff as gifts anyway. And they're like, oh, yeah, no, I haven't really looked at it, or they looked at it recently. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, well, it's like anything. There's such a wide range of quality and prices available. I'm sure you'd agree you're not going to compare this to, like, set of knives you find like Walmart, And so what I have here is, are some comparisons to stuff you'll find at Williams-Sonoma, Sur La Table. Macy's has some of the good stuff that has a range to your medium and lower quality too. But Williams-Sonoma, so they carry like the best kitchen stuff. Have you been to Williams-Sonoma before at the Falls or Gulfstream or Pembroke Gardens? All right, cool. And guys, just be more. By the way, so pause real quick. I would heavily recommend you guys can online at Williams-Sonoma request a catalog. Because they don't have them at the stores anymore since they went like go green and paperless. Because before you could just pick one up at the Falls or whatever, walk into the store and pick one up. But they will mail one to you. So if you guys go onto Williams-Sonoma and request a catalog, that's great for you guys to have. Because it has the pots and pans, it has all different kitchen stuff, and you can flip through and actually show them prices from the catalog, the newest one for now, for May or for June. So you have that for your demos. I would do that. So note to self. So anyway, you can also print stuff out online from Williams-Sonoma, and just different cutlery stores. But you guys know, again, there's different grades. Yes, you can look at stuff. We're not talking about stuff from Walmart or Target or even like JCPenney, all right? We're not talking stuff that's mid-grade either, which Macy's has a range from your lower mid to higher. We're talking about the best stuff, all right? So this is, you're about to show them, and so you want to show ads from the best kitchen stores. Be like, I don't know if you've ever, purchased stuff like this for your home, especially when you're seeing people who are more middle, lower class. But if you go to buy the best kitchen stuff, best kitchen gadgets, pots and pans, forks and spoons, whatever it is, Williams-Sonoma is the go-to. I mean, they sell the top kitchen stuff in the U.S., and they're like, oh, yeah. And so most people know that, but if they don't know that, now they do, all right? It's your job to educate them. So anyway, what I have here are some, some ads. If you go to Macy's or Williams-Sonoma or go to buy, just a good stuff like Sur La Table, some of your top brands, Wusthof, you might have also heard of Henkel's. Those have been around for over 250 years, top rated in stores. You have your Schoon. Schoon has really hit the stores hard and made a big name over the past couple decades, and so they've given them a run. But these two, in the high quality market, top two sold in stores, Schoon and your Wusthof. All right. As you can see, the price for these sets here, they range at retail price anywhere from $3,000 to almost $5,000. for just a basic set, by the way. All right. Obviously, they're not cheap. They're the best. This is your, top luxury that you're going to get in a store. All right. There are, however, there's some differences between us and them. And I'll tell you right now, if Cut couldn't exist, this is definitely what I'd invest into. They are, they have top quality materials, top quality steel. The handle material, the craftsmanship in them. There are, however, some differences with us and them. One is the handles. They have the straight handles where we have the universal wedge lock handle. It fits every hand perfect. Then theirs are made overseas, where ours are made in the USA, which is also great for giving back to our economy. Theirs, you shouldn't put them in the dishwasher, where ours you can. And if anything ever happened to ours, they're replaced for free forever. Then the edges, they have to be sharpened every time they're used, where Cutco has a double D edge that protects anything that you drag. And then lastly, you have your the guarantee, which I mentioned before. Like, these are fantastic, but eventually you will replace them. And with Cutco, once you make the investment once, you never spend more money on it again. All right. So most people on Cutco will tell you it's like 10 times better than any any knives they ever really used. I know you haven't had a chance to really use Cutco that much yet, but considering the unique features, the guarantee, most people would agree Cutco's at least twice as good as your overseas brands, your top stuff in stores. And looking at a basic set, when you're talking twice the quality, twice the value, you're talking over twice the price. And at twice the price, Ms. Jones, you're talking well over $5,000 for just a basic set in a store. And let me show you again what you got. So our basic has the 7 knives, 2 forks, and a spatula. All right, our medium set has these here. And then the complete, like I said, has the basic and all the other tools. All right. So our company has found that one of those 3 sets appeals to just about any family. Cool thing is that none of those are the price you pay for a basic set in the store. All right. Not even our complete set is as much as you'd pay retail for a basic set at a store, which they retail over $3,000. All right. Our complete set actually is only $23.69. All right. Our medium set, which you can, we'll talk about that. Our medium set, $16.99, and then our basic system is $14.69. All right. So again, none of our sets, and even our complete set, which is double the knives and guaranteed forever, is what you'd even pay for a regular retail in the store. Cool? So everything's at least 20 to 30% cheaper, and again, we'll never replace it again. So I'm assuming you didn't put away a couple grand waiting for the knife grow to come by. So although you could pay for it all today, which some people do, most people like to use our deposit program. All right? And so what our deposit program does, it actually gives you a chance to put down 100% refundable security deposit. All right? And so this deposit lets you put down basically 20% of the price, so you can have 3 weeks to just try it and just see how you like it, okay? Don't you guys feel like you could make a better decision if you had a chance to use this stuff, try it in your kitchen for a couple weeks and really get some hands-on with it? Cool. So what the deposit allows you to do, so with this set, if you wanted to try this set out, it would come out to $508, the deposit. To try out the medium set today, it'd be $365. And to try out the basic set today, it would come out to $316. All right? And so that's the deposit that you would put down. Like I said, you'd get it, 3 weeks to use it. For any reason, I mean, worst case, you send it back, you get 100% of your money back, and you have free Cutco for 3 weeks. All right? Best case, which I'm sure will be the case, which is the case most of the time, is you're going to love it. You can either call and pay the rest of it off, or they'll charge you the same amount every 30 days, all right, and it's interest-free. So basically for this set, if you did that, if you kept it in the payments, this means that you would put aside about $127 per week that you'd have to put aside, so like $63 each, all right? If you guys did this deposit and decided to keep it on the payments, this would come out to $91 per week, all right? So about $49 each. And then if you guys decided to do try this set and kept it into the payment, it'd be $79 per week. All right, so about $40 each. Cool. So I know you said you guys liked that medium set, or you like that basic set, but I want to show you the prices, because what I've seen is some people, once they see the prices, are like, dang, you know what? Why don't we just get the whole thing and be done with it? and never have to worry about it again. But I always like to make sure my customers know all their options. So, is that a set that you feel comfortable trying out today, or would you want to try out one of the bigger ones? And it's just kind of feeling it out, because every customer is going to be a little bit different, when you're getting into that closing. But I always present all three prices, unless they said, I want the complete set. If they say the complete set, and I saw them totally feeling it the whole time, when I'm going into closing, I see them right there with me, I just close on the complete set. And I say, hey, the great thing is our complete set, which is double the knives and guaranteed forever, isn't even what you pay for a basic set at retail in the store, not even the sale price for your shoe, all right? Our complete set's only blank, and I'm just going to close a single close on the complete set, saying, hey, you could pay for it all today. What most people do is put down a deposit so that way they can get it, try it out, make sure they love it. Worst case, you send it back, you get free Cutco for 3 weeks. Best case, you love it, you can call and pay it all off, or they'll charge you the same amount every 30 days. It's interest-free. Would you want to pay for it all today, or you rather do the deposit? That way you can get it, try it, and then decide. All right, cool. And then if not, then we drop down from there, and you find out, hey, is it a bigger set than you wanted to start off with, or was it just more than you wanted to spend today? All right? And I think that's really important, like, as you're dropping down. My guys have seen you dropping down, where you're listening to that, It's not like more than they could afford. They can all afford it. It's just more than they wanted to do today. Because they might go to the mall tomorrow, they'll go to Marshall's and spend $100, $200, no problem, on other stuff that they needed or wanted. So if it was more than they wanted to do today, no problem. We're going to go down, show them actually trade-ins first, if that's a set they really liked. And if not, we'll drop down from there. But one, you got to know your closing, okay? You got to know your closing. If you guys know it, that's 9 and 10. I've been doing it for 12 years. And it's very, it's on the book, but at the same time, it's a little bit more advanced, but it's a very basic close.
Because I just know the sales level of the people watching and some of you. This is not an advanced group. Like, to be respectful, you're the 10K Alliance. You're not the real Alliance. You're in this training because we feel like you can do it. The SC2 Alliance that's like everyone there is a big-time gunner because you're going to show and earn that spot in a month or two. So knowing where most of you are at in your career sales, like first by show of hands, how many of you are over 20 making bonus? Yeah, so we have such a baby group, respectfully. I'm just putting myself back in the situation. I went to an SC1, I saw it closing. I'm watching the back of your heads, and as she's doing the closing, I'm like, I see this, oh my God. That's the closing that's in your book. And I think if you can get it down, raise your hand if you saw that and said, man, that's just so natural and conversational. The book is the same way if you know it, word for word. She just doesn't stop. Right? This is when you're talking to like, what did you say at the end? So sets are better because it's this, and you get a discount, and we have payment plans too. Now, most people really haven't had the opportunity to price by color. It's conversational, versus you guys, sets are good for this, 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 and this. Most people, so just think, I just want you to think about, before you get all excited, this is awesome. This is actually really simplified, and I love it. But learn page 9 and 10 so you can speak naturally like Kathy does, because then she can really relate, and it goes back to his message. Because there's a connection. He's like, well, let me just share all the options in case you want to buy, because I suggest, like, it just, every talk ties into each other. So I just want to point that out. I'm going to let her finish, but I just really have to point that out, because I watch a lot of you just freaking out over her close. It's not her closing. She's just more confident with it, too. And it just makes sense to show all the prices. So we're going to stop. We're going to keep going, and then we'll take your time. You get another 10, 15?
Yeah, I don't even need that much. I was going to say some final things and then comments or questions.
One comment real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, in RDC, the big speaker that they brought was this guy that was totally called, like, the one thing. And, like, the whole, like, one of the main premises of, I need to read the book, but, like, the main premise of the book was take one thing from each talk, or one thing from some video, from audio. You don't have to kind of change your whole thing, but what I liked about this talk was the one thing, there's, like, so many one things you guys can take out of this presentation, whether the one thing was, like Jeff mentioned, oh crap, I should actually, like, memorize 9 and 10. For me, like, my one thing was, for people who don't cook, it was great, like a refresher to, like, getting that aesthetic feel, appeal for them. Like, I might mention now the complete set is going to be, like, you have all your basic stuff, but the complete one comes with, like, all the entertainment ones. Because I always get pictures from my customers using all the products, like, during, like, Mother's Day, Easter, so, like, that's pretty cool.
Question I have, something I started doing, something that I think would be good for people that don't cook as much is, would you recommend like personalizing the items? Like for example, like when you're going through names to use it of the homemaker. Like obviously sometimes it feels like it lasts forever. Being like, oh, praying nuts, that's my grandma's favorite knife. It's actually the one that she uses for her strawberries. Sherman's actually my dad's favorite knife. It's the #1 most sold knife in America because we have the #1 Mexican. So
yeah, I mean that goes back to just like the testimony, just the connection that they build with it. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So even if you said, oh, that's my mom's knife, but I'm like, do you guys ever do this or this? And they say, oh yeah, I peel plantains all the time. And then I'm like, cool, this is your plantain knife. And you name it to whatever they do. When you're like, do you guys ever cut limes or lemons or grapefruits or orange? Oh my God, I eat grapefruits every day. I'm like, this is your grapefruit knife. You can also use it for like tomatoes and trimming fat off meats and stuff like that. Hey, the next tool is this. Do you guys ever do lasagnas or brownies or cakes or bagels? Oh, I love bagels. Oh, this is your bagel knife, you know? And whatever it is that they're excited about, that's what that knife becomes. Because now what happens? They have a use for it. They're like, oh, I'm going to use this, you know? So they need to connect with it, and you're going to sell more of the bigger sets. Other comments and or questions for my last thoughts?
Like I said the last time you showed it to us, I love the way you like write down the prices, because I know when I personally write it, it's just a huge mess.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I talked to Shane about this. A confused mind doesn't buy. And so everything needs to be very clear so they could just see it, see exactly what's happening. By the way, you can change all these numbers. As you get more advanced, you should have the kitchen tools to all the sets, not just to the homemaker with the kitchen system. You should, if you're ever going to sell a basic homemaker, add the scissors at least into it. Well, the family sets come with the scissors. So it should be 105 higher than the 1139. You can play with all the prices and make your own little sets and everything, but this is just basic table knives, kitchen system, signature, and ultimate set.
I like how you did the trio close and you showed them all their options, but you also closed on complete instead of the Wusthof. It's basically the basic set, which is a lot more in our complete set. And then you told them that the complete set, well, also with showing all their options, you show them how the price comparison, like if you buy the homemaker now and try to upgrade later, or you can just knock it off for cheaper now and just go and get complete.
Any other comments and or questions?
I just want to say that like you have to realize that current basics are just so down that it seems like it's really advanced. And one thing I always hear people say is you can't build a mansion on stilts. You guys have to realize that you have to get the basics down that you can stay in your sleep, that you're not nervous or repeatable in man rest. That's how you know you really have it down. And then you can start adding all the fancy stuff on there. But get your basics down because that's what you're going to make the most money.
But the foundation's the same, and even as it builds on it, the foundation's the same. And even with your racks, when you're showing your stuff, like anyone who watches me do demos, like it's all the foundation's all there. You know, when I go to ask for X, I'm like, how did you enjoy it? And we're going through it, I'm like, oh my gosh, and then I show them in the front, hey, so thank you again so much for doing the appointment, and oh, here's the free way you can help me. And so as you know, I get paid every time I show Cutco, but I can only call people that I've been personally recommended to. So what I need you to do, like clean this mess I just made and write up your order, is jot down 200 to 300 people who might be nice enough to help me out. I'm like, I'm just kidding. 20 to 30 is fine, and I'm not necessarily anybody you think would buy, just anyone super nice like you to take a look. Cool? Here's how my sponsor, and it's like, it's the basics. It's just, I know it, I'm comfortable, I'm confident, it's very personal, I'm having a conversation, and it's just having those things down. That's one of the things that I think anyone who's come cross-trained with me as a manager, anyone who field training with me as a rep, one of the things they always say is like, she just does all the things she's supposed to do. She just does the basics. I'm like, why overcomplicate it? Like, there's no need. It's like, we already know it works, so just do it. And do a lot of it and get really comfortable and confident with it. Like, obviously there's things that you can take to help you feel more comfortable, but my last things that I was going to say with closing is you gotta know your basics, okay? And then you gotta be really relaxed. I think that's really important when you go into closing, and especially if you're someone who's more high-strung, as I am. And I was on my demos, I'm like, oh, da, da, da. And then when I get to closing, like that's something that I learned, and from going with one of my good friends, Peter, who was very laid back and chill and had sold a lot of Cutco. He was just like really relaxed, and I felt like his customers were just like so relaxed and looking at everything, and I would feel like my customers were like in anxiety mode when I went into closing sometimes. I'm like, okay, so, and they're like, oh, okay, you know, and you've got to be like you're sitting in a hot tub, just chill, you know, you're doing your closing, no matter how like uppity you are the whole time. You got to slow down when you're talking prices, when you're talking numbers. So be slow with numbers, write all numbers down, so everything's very clear, and it makes a and again, it's a little thing that makes a world of a difference. When you're someone who's like, like a lot of our top guys are, and I would say like Beck and Mario, and a lot of us are just like kind of all over, like chill. relax, write numbers down so it's very clear and slow, you will sell more just by that, because they're more relaxed as you're going through numbers versus feeling anxious as you're going through numbers. So any last words? No, pass it back.
So you say you better be more relaxed and excited about something. Like,
Oh, you're excited the whole time.
You don't want to be like too over energetic.
When you're quoting numbers, you're not energetic. Like you're not like, oh, so this is this and this is that. Like it's like, oh, so here's what you get if it was in a store. It's very informative. Here's what this is. Here's how it would work. Would you want to go ahead and try that out? It's just like very chill.
So be whoever you want to be during the demo, but then the closing.
You just need to be more relaxed and slower to write numbers down.
Yeah, one of the things I learned, if you feel like you're Kathy, I'm the same with Kathy, like high energy, obviously. What I learned from Fred Glazier a long time ago, right before you get to page 9 in the summary, so you finish up Mrs. Jones, you never have to buy another set of knives again. So, real quick, before the final part, let me clean up. So I would clean up the rope and leather. I would put things to the side, make it nice and like a good juju, right? Good vibe. And say, and so Mrs. Jones, let me just summarize everything. So in summary, then you summarize. So kind of like, all right, here's the action-packed part, but now I'm gonna like really connect with you here and close the sale. So that's also like that's a physical way to force a change in the environment. So
cool.
So we'll do this. We'll have forums for other questions too. I'm gonna send an email out to everybody. But can we thank Kathy for an awesome message?
Thank you, Kathy.
By the way, this, if for some reason you guys don't have it or your managers don't have it, I'll pass this around. There's one number that's wrong. It should be a 3, not a 6. But I can't close sales without having that. I like to have that right in front of me so I can always write numbers down. So that's something good for you guys to have.
Yeah, awesome. So I told you it was going to be good, huh? Are we feeling like we're learning? Yes? Again, are we feeling like we're learning? Yes?
Yeah. Who already has it?
All right, we're going to do one last stretch. One last stretch so we can give Lamarck the
You guys
attention
all want
he
this,
needs.
don't you?
Yes.
I want
So everyone stand up. Power stretch. Stand up. Ready? Hands up in the air. Hands up in the air. Follow me. Bring your arms down slowly. Stretch it out. Hands in your hips. Lean to your right. Second time's a charm. Apparently not. Lean to your left.
I love it.
Lean back. Okay. Rotate clockwise. Counterclockwise. If you don't know, yeah. Big, like, all right. You want to twist? Okay, big inhale, arms to the chest. Exhale slow. Into the nose, out the mouth. 1, 2, 3. Hold it, exhale slow. Okay, shake out your legs, get some blood flowing.
Yeah.
Big inhale. Exhale slow. Okay, twist some more. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. Hands and hips, look up. Look down. Fingers together, push straight down, stretch out your arms. You can go the other way if you like. One more time. Inhale. Exhale slow. Turn to your partner. Turn to someone next to you. 2 high fives in the air. Go. All right, good. Find someone next to you. Make eye contact. Look at them intensely and say, hey, you. Hey, you. I got this. I got this. All right, have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. Good to see everyone in Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands. All right, you're gonna want attention on this one. We're gonna wrap up with something strong here. I love wrapping up with the phone because ready? Who's excited about the information you just learned? Raise your hand. Right? That's exciting. You have no appointments. Doesn't matter. Right? You can know your clothes by yourself in your bedroom practicing. So no better to talk about the phone than someone who's more closer to what you guys have been doing, winning scholarships. Mr. Lamarck Blair, I remember him as one of our first management candidates accepted to the very first AGL school that we created here in 2010. And I remember him coming out of the northeast corridor of the Florida Caribbean Division, specifically out of one of those those offices. And it was just really awesome to see just the difference. I was thinking about Mario. I'm thinking about Beck over here. I'm thinking about this guy, Lamarck, just to see the transformation. This is a guy who's moved his life to Orlando for school, part of a Silver Cup office dynasty up there in Orlando at the time, assistant manager, And he's got all these great things. The things I want to point out, he's been a branch manager, and I think that's one of the greatest things. Mario said it best. Mario said, the reason I'm so much more comfortable speaking to people, and if you knew the old Mario, you'd understand this, is because I've managed people. Is this my shameless plug for branch? Yes, absolutely. If you have the opportunity and you earn a branch, you got to take it. I'm just telling you, that's something. If that hasn't been a light bulb yet, that's okay. But think about branch, because that can separate you. And branch doesn't mean you're management forever. Branch doesn't even mean you're Cutco forever. I can tell you from Rachel, who's going to be working for Lincoln Financial. I can tell you from Beck, who left and is now back. I can tell you from Mario, who's been a district and is now a rep. I can tell you from someone who's a Cutco sales professional and about to deliver some really exciting message to you. All-American Scholarship winner, summer of 2013. I love the fact that this is what I love, 11-time President's Club, meaning there's a specific amount you have to sell each campaign to earn a certified letter recommending you for work from the CEO of our company. And it's called the President's Club letter. Every major sales company has something to this effect. And he's won it 11 times. That's a big deal. Here's what I love this. Watch this. $208,000 in career Cutco sales, 80% closing ratio. And this is why he's giving you the message. Last year, SC1, he did $10,000 plus. SC2, he did $10,000 plus. To have two back-to-back 10K pushes is a pretty solid feat. I also work very closely with Lamarck. He's in our Fort Lauderdale office. And when this guy comes in, he just gets to work. He doesn't mess around with the phone. So I encourage you to take a ton of notes, really take from this message. This is going to put everything together. What a great way to wrap up our 10K line. So I give to you, from the Fort Lauderdale Pilot Office, Mr. Lamarck Blair. El Breezy.
All right, cool. So before I actually start, I just want to make a point that there's two parts to every message: the speaker and the audience. And obviously, I know you guys are kind of antsy right now because I'm the last speaker. Everyone's ready to go home. I want you to understand that you can take one thing from this talk and let it change your business. I want to give you an idea of where I was a year ago. I was not getting the results I wanted as an assistant manager, as a sales rep. Me and my girlfriend had just broken up, and I was sitting at this meeting. I heard a phone talk from Karina Marquez Sterling, and in the next 3 weeks, I sold 17 grand. I sold 10 the entire spring. So think about that, from 10 grand in the one campaign to 17 in the next 3 weeks. So now that I have your attention. So I'm going to cover the 3 P's to the phone. Okay, the first one is perspective. Second is prep. Third is process. Now I'm actually going to hand out this phone approach. This is actually what I made last summer when I won my scholarship. So
thanks. You help with it? Or just good? Just the, yeah, I'll take half of it. Thanks, sir.
So first, guys, you have to understand perspective. It's how you look at it. Guys, realize that as FSMs, as senior advisors, as CSPs, we are so spoiled with what we have to do to make money. Think about that, guys. Think about what your friends do for $6.79 an hour, or $8 an hour, or $10 an hour. The only work part we have is the phone. So you have to understand that there shouldn't be any feelings attached to the phone. Lots of people get on the phone and they're worried about rejection. You have to understand that rejection is normal, and that's not how you should look at it. It shouldn't be about, oh, who might say no. It's about who might say yes, and whose life you might impact. Who's going to have Cutco from you and have it, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. I think about that. I have one customer, her name's Jan. I had an appointment with her 3 years ago. We talked about her son. She was saying how she wanted to get into sports, how he was too heavy. And, just regular talking, we ended up getting signed to play for the football league my brother played for. So just, guys, now that might not be huge, but that's something that's changed in her life because I was there. So think about that. It's not about rejection. It's about who you can influence. So, guys, next is prep. There's a couple things that you have to have ready for the phone to be effective. First, an attack list. And I don't mean just write down all your leads and numbers on a sheet of paper. I mean, get an Excel sheet. It might take an hour, but it's so worth it when you actually start phoning. What I do is I do name, phone number, area, who recommended me to them. I put the notes or the phone number for who recommended me, and then I also put like just straight notes. I do that all in an Excel sheet and I print it out. And every time I get another 20, 30 leads, I print out a new sheet and I add it on. Now what that lets me do is when I'm doing phone time, I don't have to think. I don't have to stop, flip through pages and say, okay, this is a bad list, or this person didn't buy this much, or I'm not sure if she texted her friends. What it lets you do is lets you take the thinking out of phoning, because there shouldn't be thinking while you're dialing. You're just dialing. It's your job. Does that make sense, everybody? Next is tracker. I'm assuming everyone in this room knows how to use a phone tracker.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, guys, you have to realize how powerful of a tool that is, because not only does it allow you to track your results, one phone jam to the next, but you're able to look at that long term, and that's where you can get your solid planning. That's where you can go from, looking at your data, tracing back to how many calls you need to make each campaign to sell a certain amount. And that's what I did last summer. I started with, hey, 15 calls, book an appointment. I'm going to sell on, I assumed like my closing percent is 80%. So I worked it backwards to how much money I was making for each call, and also how many calls I needed to make each push to get the results I wanted. So for example, last summer, I sat down and I made 250 calls between 2 days, the Saturday and the Sunday before SC1. And I wouldn't have been able to know that if I hadn't tracked my calls and focused on the numbers and realized that what you track, you can improve. The next point is you have to get the right pump. Does anybody work out here? Okay. All right, this is for the guys. Right before you go to get your last set, everybody has that song they play in their head, or the little dance that they do right before the 3 set, the 3 or the 2 set. So, guys, think about this. I like to treat Cutco like a sport, because I did wrestling, weightlifting, football all through high school. So that's something I could relate it to. And guys, being in the right mind frame to make the calls helps so much you don't even realize it. Because when you're not focused, when you're not pumped, that's when stuff starts to distract you. That's when you start checking your Facebook in between calls, or you start talking to other people in the office during phone jam. Next is the process. Now, does everybody have the approach? Did I hand it out?
Oh, easy. Oh, no.
Okay. So, guys, more copies?
Yeah, that's in the bathroom.
Does anyone have extra copies of the approach? Okay. Cool. We'll get to it later. All right. So there's 5 steps to every approach. Now, guys, I'm not saying take this approach and throw out your old approach. What I'm saying is look at what I did in each step and what words I add in and why I add them in. So that way, when you're looking at your own approach or the approach that your manager goes over with you, you can see what's important and what you have to emphasize on. So the 5 parts to every approach are an intro, the warm-up, value, asking for the order, and the firm-up. So I'm going to go through my phone approach. I'm going to explain each step and why there's certain words that are different than some approach that you might see. Okay, so let's say I'm calling Jordan. All right. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, Jordan.
Hey, hey, how are you?
Hey, Jordan, this is Mark. I'm not sure if my name rings a bell. I'm actually a friend of Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. Did Jeff tell you I was going to give you a call?
Actually, no, he didn't.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I totally didn't mean to catch you out of the blue.
It's all right.
Okay, awesome. Well, the reason I was calling is I was over to see Jeff the other day, and your name came up. Jeff actually said that you were really nice and that you might be able to help me out with something I'm working on for school. Did you have a quick second?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, awesome. And see, I'm actually a student over at FAU, and I'm majoring in marketing. I'm actually about to start my senior year in the fall, and what I'm doing this semester to pay for school is I'm working part-time with this local company that's helping me compete for a scholarship. And the way I get credit, just to Jeff, is I just come over and sit down with you for a few minutes and just go over some of the stuff that the company makes. All it is just a bunch of stuff for the kitchen, which I'm sure you probably already have a ton of. But what's really cool is I get credit and pay just to show it to you. So you wouldn't even have to get anything. And I'm in a big competition right now, and I need to do 8 more appointments by Thursday night. I already have my first 5 set up. So I was going to be in your area, and I just want to know if you could squeeze me in really quickly, like Wednesday in the morning, or if Friday or Thursday in the afternoon works better for you. It would really help me out.
Okay. I think Wednesday in the morning, I have to take the kids to school, but we could do that afterwards.
Okay, so do you think like 10 or 12 would be better for you?
I think like 9:30, 10 o'clock, that should be fine.
Okay, so 9:30 works?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much for squeezing me in. I really appreciate it. I know that Jeff said that you live in Wellington. So what's the easiest way to get to your house coming from 95?
I guess you could just take the second right off the exit. sorry.
On that one.
I have no idea.
The grass is green, by the way.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So after I get off 95, I take the second right.
Perfect.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Now, hey, can you grab a pen and paper so I can give you some real quick information in case my manager calls?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So my name is Lamarck. It's Lamark. And my last name is Blair, Blair. And I'll be there at 10:30 on Wednesday. Oh, and my scholarship ID code is 332-79801. That's also a discount code just in case you see some stuff you like Jeff did. And hey, the most important part is I want you to draw a big smiley face with glasses on it so you know what I look like when I get there.
All right, done.
Gotcha. Awesome. Cool. I'm sorry to have to go through all the trouble of having you drop that down, but I actually went all the way to Port St. Lucie the other day.
Oh my gosh.
And the lady wasn't even there. I know you wouldn't do that, but I just want to make it super easy to remember me because every appointment really makes a difference in my scholarship goal. So if you could just slap it on the fridge where you can see it, I'm really looking forward to meeting you at 10:30 on Wednesday. Jeff said you were really nice.
Right.
See you
Yeah, 10:30.
Okay, cool. So, guys,
What? No, sorry.
so a couple points I want you guys to see is at the beginning, I didn't say, hi, is this Jeff? Or, hi, is this Jeff Gamboa? Because that sounds like a what? Yeah, telemarketer. Hey, Jeff? And you see how you can put the question marks next to it. I've made it really easy, guys.
You really did.
So I'm not sure if my name rings a bell. I'm actually a friend of Susie. How are you? And guys, I kind of break that up. That way they're not confused. You keep control of the conversation by asking questions. You guys understand that? That's why every time you handle objection, you finish with a question. So what I did here is, I'm not sure if my name rings a bell. I'm actually a friend of Susie. A lot of times they'll say, or okay. By saying, how are you, I take back control of the conversation. And then you get right to the point. Hey, the reason I'm calling is because I was over to see Susie the other day, and your name came up. Susie said you were really nice, and you might be able to help me out with something I'm working on for school. Do you have a quick second? And that little line there, you see I put that after I explain kind of what I'm doing. That way it's not like, hey, you start out the conversation, I'm like, hey, do you have a quick second? They're like, hey, I'm actually busy. That way they hear something of value before you ask if they have time. Does that make sense? Does everyone get that?
Yeah.
So I'm actually a student over at FAU, and I'm majoring in marketing. I'm actually, well, last year I used to say I'm about halfway done with school. And what this does is it kind of, instead of a salesperson, they kind of see who you are. This is actually something I picked up from Karina last year when she gave this talk. And guys, it kind of puts a little bit of you in the approach so you understand why you're working. Because the regular approach, there's not really much rapport built in there. And the majority of times, guys, if you say, hey, I'm about halfway done with school, or I'm going in my senior year, or I'm going to be a sophomore, a lot of times people will say, oh, that's awesome. And then that's automatic rapport right there. And then it's, from there, you take it. You guys, does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so, and what I'm doing this semester to pay for school is I'm actually working part-time with this local company that's helping me compete for a scholarship. And the way I get credit, just like I did with Susie, is I just come over and sit down with you for a few minutes, or you can say a little bit, whatever you want to say there, and go over some of the stuff that the company makes. All it is just a bunch of stuff for the kitchen, which I'm sure you probably have a ton of. What I'm doing right there is I'm handling the objection before it comes up. That way later on when they ask me, oh, it's stuff for cooking, oh, I don't really cook. I already said you probably have a ton of that stuff. So, but what's really cool is I get credit and paid just to show it to you. So you wouldn't have to get anything. And I'm in a big contest right now. I need to do 8 appointments before Friday night. And I already have however many you have set up. Now, guys, if you have 0 and you're saying 17, okay, you might want to add like a number or 2 in there or make it lower. I usually do 3 days out, and I'm halfway to my goal. So let's say I need to do, let's say it's the weekend. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm calling her on a Friday. Hey, I need to do 8 appointments by, Monday night. I already have my first 3 or 4 booked up. What that does is that they understand they can help you, and they see your goal, and they see you're not the only person that you're calling for a knife appointment. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's like, hey, other people are doing this. You're weird if you don't get on board with my goals.
Yeah.
So I was going to be in your area, and I just wanted to know if you could squeeze me in really quickly and then I offered 2 time ranges. Hey, like Wednesday morning or Thursday in the afternoon. That way you're not offering 2 times, and then those 2 times don't work out, and they say, oh, can you just call me back? That way you have a broader range, and then you narrow it down from there. So just like when Jordan said the morning's best, I said, okay, 10 or 12. And I always say it would really help me out. I always squeeze that in there whenever I ask for the time. Everybody say it with me. It would really help me out.
It would really help me out.
Now, guys, that'll push them over the edge so often you don't even understand. Next is the firm up, which is probably the most important part. Guys, if you're not going to firm up, you might as well just not book the appointment. It doesn't even make sense. So, guys, the reason I spaced out the firm up and it takes up a full page when it's really only a paragraph of text is because you have to go through it slowly and you have to understand the reason for each part. The reason I ask for directions isn't because I need directions. I have a GPS. The reason I'm asking for directions is so he visualizes me coming to his house. And then I read the directions back to him. And sometimes if I feel like someone's not paying attention, I'll read back one of the directions wrong, just to see if they are paying attention. So, oh, you said left at the airport? Oh, no, right. Oh, okay. Next, I have them grab the pen and paper to jot down stuff. And the reason for that, obviously, is so they actually have it written down somewhere. Because if you're just calling and they're not writing it down, or you're texting them a firm up, it's not the same. So they can just text cancel. I also plant the seed that they're going to be buying something when I say it's also a discount code. Did you guys catch that?
Yeah, that was.
And I say that with service calls, with appointments, with anything like that, because it just makes sense. And there's times where I'll say that, and I'll have customers ask me, oh, how much is the discount? Or, oh, that's awesome. Is that only for when you come? I'm like, yeah, hey, we'll worry about that price when I get there. Cool, and then I tie in the story. I say, cool, hey, I'm sorry to have you go through the trouble of jotting that down, but it actually went all the way to, if you guys are in Miami, I don't know, say Homestead. I went all the way to Homestead the other day, and the lady wasn't even there. I know you wouldn't do that to me, but I just want to make it super easy to remember me, because every appointment really makes a difference to my scholarship goal. So if you could just slap that on the fridge where you can see it, I'm really looking forward to meeting you on day at time. You know, Susie said you were really nice. And what that does is it kind of ties them into the disappointment you would feel if you drove all the way over there and they weren't there. I cannot tell you how many times last year when I got to an appointment and the person was like, oh my gosh, I totally almost forgot. I would have felt so bad because you talked about that lady on the phone and I didn't want to be that lady. I'm like, yeah, you don't want to be that lady. So, guys, I want you to take some of the stuff and just add in one or two things, one or two phrases to your phone approach. Don't completely change your phone approach, 6 days before the push. That's not smart. Go over this with your manager and take what you can use and what makes sense for you to make your phone approach better. Because, guys, there's nothing new anymore. We all add on to other people's stuff to make it better. So, do we have time for questions?
You do.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
What would you do if you're putting the address and you say like, oh yeah, make a left, but you said right, and you said yeah, make a left, but you know it's wrong.
I would be like, okay, and I would get the address. You get the address after you say that, and then I would say again, hey, and just to make sure, I turn right at the airport, right? If they don't catch that, they're not even paying attention.
Yeah.
All right, Marcus.
Or if they're driving and they can't write it down.
If they're driving, I'll call back and I'll leave it on a voicemail. I'd rather leave it on a voicemail so they don't know text is available, because it's so much easier to cancel through text or to say something that's not nice through text. It's kind of like, does anyone get that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's more personal when they're talking to you. Okay, next question.
I noticed that you didn't talk about the penny. Bring up is actually personal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like the penny, to be honest, me personally. And I feel like the story and the writing it down kind of takes that spot. Because, I mean, yeah, the penny is stuff they put in the fridge, but I say in my approach to just slap it on the fridge or put it somewhere they can see it. So the reason for the penny is just so when they open the fridge they see it. But if their appointment time and your name and your scholarship ID code is on the fridge, it's the same thing. Anybody else?
How much did your cancellation rate change using the approach, the firma properly, from when you didn't use it?
When I used to do phone time, I would have like a weaker firma, and I would say I would go for probably about 8 to 9 appointments before I had to reschedule, and then I'd have like 2 or 3 cancellations or reschedules at once. Right? So when I started changing it and adding the story in, that was like 1 for every, like 14, 15. So that'd be right around, I guess, 6%. Okay, any other questions?
For you, Mark, round of applause. Yeah. So, real quick, how about big takeaways from that message? And I'm going to give you a couple final thoughts and get you out of here right on time. Senora Garcia.
The discount code, I think that's like just, because it just like sets the sales expectation from the phone. It's not even like, even though you're telling them, yeah, you get paid just assured, they don't have to get anything, you're still letting them know, I expect you to buy. That's why I'm giving you this discount code.
That's one of my favorites, by the way. Go ahead.
Asking them if they have a quick set, because you can make it all the way through all the way through the end of their approach, and they'd be like, you know what, right now is just not a good time. Just call me back.
Yeah. One of the things I was always taught is just, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? So when you're calling, and just a phrase I always, and I apologize if you said this exactly, Mark, but my first line every time I was calling someone was, "Hi, is Miss Beck there?" "Hey, Miss Beck, this is Jeff. I'm friends with the Sabates. My name is Jeff." I do that before my name. "Hi, is this Miss Carmelita?" Right? I'm just making up a name. I know that's not your name, Margarita. She's like, "Hi." Okay, Mark. "Hi, is this Miss Margarita?"
Yeah.
Miss Margarita, hi. This is actually, I'm a friend of Esteban and his wife Clarita. This is Jeff. How are you? Yeah. Did they? I'm so sorry. Did you have a quick second? I didn't know if Mr. Esteban gave you a chance, gave you a call to let me know that I was calling. Did he happen by chance to talk? See, I don't want them to know my name first. I want them to know who the hell I am first. They don't care about my name. Name doesn't register. Anyone ever have an approach where you told them their name and you forgot your name? What's your name again? Yeah. Like, I just told you my name! Because they're not interested in your name. They're interested in who you are. Yeah. So that's just like that.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, they're not interested. So one more time. Ready? Hi, is this Miss Beck?
Hi, yes, this is.
Hi, Mrs. Echeverria. This is actually, I'm a friend of Miss Terry. Your neighbor. My name is Jeff. Did she mention I was going to give you a call?
Oh, no, she didn't.
Did you have a quick second? I'm so sorry. I had a feeling she was going to forget to tell you because of Mikey and the soccer game the other day. She's probably really busy. So I just threw in there who I am, then my name, then I actually know her because I mentioned the kid's name because I built rapport. So now they're willing to listen. I'll say it again. Ready? And you can probably do this systematically. Hi, may I speak to Miss Beck, please?
Hi, this is she.
Hi, Miss Beck. Actually, I'm a friend of Miss Terry, your neighbors. My name is Jeff. Did she happen to give you a quick call, let you know I may be calling?
Oh, hello, no, she didn't.
Right. So, okay, you guys get the thought. Okay.
You want to go?
No. Let me give you a couple of random, because my thing is the phone and rapport. So I want to give you a couple phone tips. Let me just give you I picked out 5 or 7 just random Gamboa tips I wanted to give you. Some of them you've heard before, but they're always good to know right before first starts. So ready, a couple quick, easy tips, just tips, and if you've heard some of these tips before, great, use them. Number 1, every time you say the word appointment, precede it with the word scholarship in your entire career with Cutco. Mrs. Jones, I'm calling because I have to do 19 appointments versus now 19 scholarship appointments. Mrs. Jones, I get paid just to do the scholarship appointment. Anytime you say the word appointment, say the word scholarship before. Easy, but people forget it, and it's so easy to focus not on the sales, but the what? Scholarship. And if you're not a student, talk to your manager. We'll find something different. We can. Cool. Number 2, anytime you have the word appointment, the word scholarship before. Anytime you have the word Cutco, afterwards say the word sets. Mrs. Jones, let me tell you, I want to show you Cutco sets, the world's finest sets of cutlery. Mrs. Jones, the reason Cutco sets, we've sold over $250 million worth of Cutco sets. Sets. Keep saying the word sets. Third tip, when you get to the guarantee, well, this is part of number 2. Think about it. Mrs. Jones, the first part of the forever guarantee for Cutco sets. The first part is the forever performance guarantee for your set. If anything happens to your set, if the set is damaged when you get it, if the set, something happens with the wood block, anything happens to the set, just send the set back and replace the set for free. The entire thing, or even just part of the set. Set. And it's not uncommon in my presentation at the end for the customer to say, well, I was going to ask about pieces, but since you sell sets, right? You want to continue to say the word sets, right? Of the 3, aside from food, this is an analogy I use in training. When you cut pennies, rope, and leather, that's like taking your Ferrari. We're the Ferrari, Bentley, Bugatti, Rolls-Royce, whatever. You pick the car. We're the top of the line. We surpassed the Mercedes, Lexus, BMW, which is the Mustafa, Henkels, and Schön. Everyone understand that? If you're with me, raise your hand. Okay. So, when you cut pennies, rope, and leather, that's like taking the Ferrari for a test drive in the parking lot. When you cut food, that's like taking it on 95 and ripping it. Yeah. Yet some of you have not cut food in an appointment. It's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Seriously. Right? Imagine trying to sell a Ferrari and you don't turn out that V12. If you don't know what that means, it's very fast. Right? I'm just saying, it's like I did the appointment. What food did you cut? I didn't cut anything. They didn't have anything. Well, first of all, you might not be showing a Mac customer because all Mac customers have food. Or I would invest the $5, $10 and bring something. Grapes and bread. Easy. Grapes, bread, carrots. Those are the 3 easy ones. Talk to your manager about that. So always cut food. But here's my point. This is something I learned a long time ago. Of the 3 in the parking lot demonstrations, penny, rope, and leather, what's the most impressive one? No, the leather! The penny's the cool one. But who the hell? Who's going to cut pennies? I can't wait to buy the scissors so we can cut the pennies. Right? Okay? The pennies are not like, the penny's just a cool trick. What's gasping? Has anyone ever had someone gasp at the leather? It's like, cut this nut, right? Oh! Right? Like the oh! Right? Or the wow, right? The most impressive demonstration of the non-take it out on 95 food demonstrations is the leather. You got to capitalize. When emotion is high, that's when you capitalize. So when you cut through the leather, as soon as you're done, oh! Mrs. Jones, isn't that awesome? Isn't that great? That's why all of our sets come with these. Never sell a basic ever again for the rest of your life. Mrs. Jones, oh, isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's why all of our sets always come with these. All right? All of our sets. I learned half of the stuff I'm telling you I didn't make up. I learned it at SC1 in 1997. I'm just telling you. So, so far so good. You guys like those so far? Okay. Third thing I would say, everything I taught, 4th, 5th, whatever the number is, anything I touch at SLDM. Who's been to an SLDM? Raise your hand. Say, I have been to an SLDM. I have been to an SLDM. Look through your notes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times before you go to your push. I'm just telling you, because you always forget things. There's so many great tips. I saw some of you just like last week. I'm just telling you. And some of you I'll see tomorrow. Who am I seeing tomorrow? Who's coming to my SLDM tomorrow? No? A couple of you? You're in my office. You have no choice. I'll see you. Okay? My last tip is this. I just think it's so important that your communication is really high. This has nothing to do with selling. Your communication has to go really high. Right? You're going to have those tough days, so really reaching out to the right appropriate people. That's why we have this group. I want to say thank you to Kathy. I want to say thank you to Mario. I want to say thank you to Andy. I want to say thank you to Lamarck for one heck of a meeting. Can we get a picture? Can we get a picture? Can we get Andy and we get a picture? I'm just curious, so as we end, Shayna, you mind? I'm just curious, big takeaways, not necessarily 1 or 2 tips, but just general takeaways from the messages today. Andy, would you mind?
Can I get this one?
Not yet, this one.
Oh, okay.
Speakers first.
You told me. Oh, okay. I'll just stand.
And hurry.
Oh, come on, no, you can't wear the jacket. I'm the only one though.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Sorry.
Okay, hold on, we'll do a picture first. This is awesome. We'll do...
Sunglasses, Andy? You're going to have one?
Why not?
This is awesome. Okay, big smile.
Ready?
Brown people.
Who are we looking at? Me.
Hey.
Oh.
Alright, 1, 2, 3.
Nice.
You.
All right.
Another one?
All right. Sure.
Okay. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Beautiful. Can we get another round of applause for our speakers, please? All right, real quick, we'll wrap up. We have 2 minutes. Big takeaways. Marquise.
The biggest takeaway is when Kathy was talking about like just asking them what they cut with, and they say like for trim they say, oh I like orange, and say okay, well this is the knife you're gonna use for your orange. And
Yeah, so
that
tailored.
way, and then not necessarily about them cooking. Like knives are used for cooking, knives are used for cutting. No matter what they use, they have that's
Everyone
that's
cuts.
what I go to.
Yeah. Any other? How about general themes? Go ahead. Build momentum. This is. I'm just telling you. If you have a really good week this week, the push is so much easier. So much easier. Go ahead, Landon.
It's kind of obvious, but the importance of rapport.
Yeah. You don't sell the product unless you sell who first. Yeah, you know that. Go ahead, Kevin.
So, every time you say Kaku, say sets.
Yeah, you
Because
like-
I mean, that just gets them in the mood of, we gotta get sets.
That's right. You gotta get sets for sure.
Where Lamarck said about the perspective while you're on the phone, like how you gotta understand there's no feelings attached to the phone. This
Yeah.
is how you make money. This is what you get paid to do. And how you said, like, you can know all the knowledge in the world, all the closing in the world,
Yeah.
all the information of the world. If you don't get on your phone and book appointments, you're
Yeah.
doing nothing.
You know, you go to the beach, people want to have a beach body. It's the gym, not the beach. Right? The seller's the beach. The phone time's the gym. That's
Can I say
it.
something?
Mike and yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, just to piggyback off of that, coming from a perspective of like doing something else after this, phoning is the one thing that people will look at you and like will idolize you. because of your voting.
Yeah,
skills.
when-
Like they look at you like you have 3 heads, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what am I doing?
At Beck's job, right after, and you can ask for a story later. She's went to a Fortune 100 company, one of the top 100 companies in 100, right?
Financial.
Yeah, well,
It's
fine.
like 350.
Yeah, big time. And everyone was in shock, in awe at this young college student who was running circles around the adults who had been there for 15, 20 years. Running circles.
These kids couldn't even do 40 calls a day. I'm like,
Yeah, we do that in an
sit down
hour.
and yeah, I was
Yeah.
like, what's wrong with you?
So anyway, JJ and Mike, listen up. Quickly, we need quick ones. Go ahead.
Really small details, small changes can make a big difference at the end of the day.
Yep. At the end, it's not one. It's not one drop that causes the flood. You guys know that? You guys know that? Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking kind of like the support thing, which is just building a relationship with the customer because my last appointment, last night, I had like this hour-long conversation with my customer, and then she gave me like recommended like people just still giving me more right back now.
Yeah.
On my text message and everything.
Yeah. Can I give you a secret? Ever have a customer who was really awesome to build rapport and the conversation was great, but it was taking forever? Yeah. Watch this. Remember book. So Jeff Gimble special. So you know they're talking and Shanna just be chatty Cathy. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, so like my kid went to the park and then he fell on his face and like he started crying the other day.
Oh, that's awesome,
And then I had
Mrs.
to, like,
Jones.
find
I
him
just
a-
slowly, politely, not disrespect, politely, look at the watch and they go, oh, I'm so sorry, you have your appointment. Number 2, before you go to the appointment, as soon as you get there, Mrs. Jones, I'm so excited to be here. I have 3 more appointments lined up and I'm so excited. My next one's at 5. I can't wait to meet with you, meet with her. Like, I want them to know my schedule and then I'm on a time frame. Okay, just another quick thing. Go ahead.
Oh, and one of the things is what Andy like with service calling and like necessarily being there for service, because I had one of my friend's mom who she's had the demonstration probably about 5 times and she hasn't bought from anyone since the first time she bought it. But I went to her and I did the barkeeper's friend. I serviced her night and she ended up buying 500 and giving me 40 rigs.
There you go. We'll do 2 more. 1 and 2.
Confidence is key.
Confidence is key. Confidence is key. Some of you know that already. Last one.
Scholarship before appointment.
Scholarship. You're all students. Maximize it. Take advantage of the fact that you work for the largest college student recruiting company in all of North America. I want to say thank you for your time and energy. And ready? Everyone always say thank you for this meeting. You know how you thank me? Go have a huge 10K push. You have my phone number. Update me on text on anything positive. If you're not sure what's worthy of a text message, ask your manager or text me and I won't respond. That's it. That's really what it is.
We'll assume you're busy.
So, yeah, assume that I'm a little bit busy. Everyone, have a good night. Buenas noches. I
Miami,
appreciate
don't
it.
go. I need you all. Miami,
Hey,
Emilio,
and can I have Mario?
It's like Miami, just sit your ass back in those chairs. Done.
I need to see your schedule. Grab your schedule and pull it open. I want to see what you guys
I can't do anything for the rest of the week. I have an exam on Friday.
Hey Jeff, by the way, I do the leather, I do it with a belt. Because I used to be very like overweight, so I have a lot of my old belts, and I just take them with me, and I'm just like, oh yeah, you see how you
do that?
cut the leather, try to cut it with belt. Just like,
Okay. Here, Miami, come over here. Let me talk to you guys real quick. Ryan, come here. Where is it not all of Miami? Where?
Sharpies! Hooja! Like, everyone, come here, come on.
Okay, and then I need to walk through. Where's Chile?
What's the biggest one of us? How do we know? I think
How do I lose Chile? Where's Chile?
He's just here.
You see him? Okay, I need your guys. We should probably stop the broadcast.